Look, here we are. Friggin' hell. Can everyone hear me now? Can you
I
hear me?
can.
Yeah. Oh, silly. This is one of them days I had it all worked out. I had it all worked out and it didn't work, but now it is. G'day, everyone. I had a big yarn set up and I didn't figure it out right, and I'm going to turn it off in a minute because you got my nighttime head. How you going, my brother? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Hold on,
well,
I've got to put the extension speaker on.
I had all this music set up, I had everything set up, and nothing worked properly. I was so cool and calm about it too, thinking I got everything under control. When you think you got everything under control, yeah, that's when you haven't. Yeah, I was talking about raving my head off, and no one could hear anything. And I was talking about being born with a cultural lens. When you brought up, you grow with cultural stuff and you know your culture. And you look at everything with that lens in life. So that's what I was talking about. It was a good yarn. I heard it, but you didn't. So anyway, I want to welcome Brother Donny. So what you doing up so late, my brother?
Just watching videos, mate.
Oh yeah, yeah. I got this yarn set up. Nese is supposed to join us soon, and we're just going to talk about yeah, having a cultural lens and the spiritual way we think about things and the ordinary physical everyday life and the way we think about things. And having you here is really good. And I want to welcome Sid. Good to see you, brother. I haven't talked to you for a while. And I want to welcome ZX. Thank you for coming. And I had it all in the beginning. I was saying, like, it's good evening and welcome to the day, depending on where you are, and because it's night time here and the morning there. And I hope it's a beautiful day for you. And we're having a lovely evening, and I've had a real productive day. What about you, Donny? Have you had a productive day?
Yeah, watching the floodwaters go down.
Oh, I thought you might have had a bit of flood there. It stopped raining here for a little while.
Mm.
I hope. Um, so yeah, all that's good. Um, all right. So there's a good place to start, my brother. Floodwaters from a cultural and a spiritual point of view, and we were speaking about this the other day. What's happening with the waters here in Australia? Oh, our brother Nase just popped in. Yeah, what's happening with the waters here in Australia and how our people look at it. So you've got first-hand experience where you are, and so have I, because we both live near water.
To me, it's just a big cleansing. My mother's just cleaning the house. That's how I put it.
And we know these cleansings come on a cycle
Mm.
over years that we're not alive for most of the time. But there are mini cycles, but this one isn't, is it, Donny? This one's a big cycle. Would you say?
Yeah, maybe because we might have sung it up.
Yeah, well, there's that too. I was getting to that. I was getting to that point where
Yeah.
we've sung it up. So I'll tell you that story. I just want to welcome Brother Nase. G'day, bro. How are you? And welcome to the day.
Buju, Anin, Nese Indigenika Zanishinabwem, Minawa, Kevin Richard Shores Indigenika Jagalashi Muk Makwanan Dune Dame, Minawa, Nendogichida, Aki, Minawa, Gawababi Ganikagan, Dunjiba, Minawa, Moorhead, Minnesota, USA, Nunguminde, Chi Miigwech, Ganikana. Hello, my brother and my sister from the same Mother Earth. From our birth, maybe show our worth. As I'm sitting here being a monkey eating a banana so early in the morning. Not that early, earlier than I usually get up. But thank you for this incredible opportunity to be with the one and only Donny and Luna.
Yeah, it's late night with Luna. And Donny.
Yeah, my brother.
Yeah, man.
Yeah, we're just talking about the water cycle here in Australia, because the last couple of years in the summer it's been really wet and we've had floods. We had a little bit in each winter, and over the last few days it's been raining again, and I was really liking a break. But we were discussing it the other day, me and Donny. It's part of a greater cycle that's happening. It's a cleansing, and we knew it was coming, but we also all got instructed to sing it in. And you don't realise, well, me and Donny got different stories, because Donny actually did it with other people, and was on my own, and I got the same instruction. And I didn't realise till I talked to Donny that we all got the same message all at the same time. So I'll let Donny tell you how it happened to him, and how it happened to me was easy. I just got the message, bang, I've got to go and do this down by the river. I went down and sang certain songs and did my bit, and thinking that I was the only one doing it, so it was only a little bit, it was just the right amount, I was thinking. Then I went and spoke to Brother Donny. You want to tell him what happened on your part?
Well, there was big sing up between about 200 different mobs all across Australia. It was just after the. It was actually during the bushfires out here. So all the mob got together and sung up the rain. And ever since we done that, it hasn't stopped raining.
And that was a couple of years ago. Every year, 3 years has it been? 3 years in a row. So I'll ask you now, Brother Nese, what kind of cycle do you have going in your country, and did you and yours participate in any way?
Well, as I've shared with you before about my rituals and my ceremonies, which are based upon the teachings of my elders of the Anishinaabe heritage. Unfortunately, because of the 700 years of manipulation from the powers that should not be, we cannot be 100% anymore with what our actual rituals and ceremonies were. But we still have somewhat of the framework or the guidelines. And when I hear you share the words about singing it in, it makes me think of the cycles greater than us, i.e., happy full moon. But the cycles greater than us, that we have maybe a microscopic additive in directing our energy. But when we collectively take all of our little sparks, then we illuminate like the sun. And so when I think of singing in the cycles, that's basically just raising our voices in praise or raising our hands in praise to these cycles that occur, and say, bring it on, because here we are. We're still living, breathing entities. And I believe I'm preaching to the choir here, where the three of us as Indigenous people know that historically the powers that should not be have not wanted us around and around and around again as the cycles of the psychos go. So singing in those, welcoming the greater cycles, because here we are enjoying these present moments.
Bloody hell.
Wow, and I haven't even participated in any cannabis yet.
That's all right.
Sorry, it's late nighty. laid back with Luna, late night. Sorry. So that's my part of my cycle each day. Drinking best. Yeah, the brilliant thing about now, and the beautiful positive thing and lovely thing about now, is we're all here witnessing a peak of a greater cycle. So as when we were kids, we lived in little mini cycles. Like we watched hot years, we watched cold years, we watched years where there was abundance of food, we watched years where there wasn't. Like one time here, there were no bananas for a couple of years. Do you remember that, Nonny?
Yes, I do. That was that big cyclone up north there.
Yeah, we had a cyclone. Yeah, that's it. And I love me nannies, and
So do I.
yeah, at first going without them was like, oh, but I just said to my head, don't worry, they'll come back one day. Just don't worry about it. And we didn't need them for ages, and you just don't worry about it. And then one day they come back, and then it was like gold, like these golden fingers. Now it's just back to normal again.
But what is normal?
Well, true. I think normal is going with the cycle, whether it's the small cycle or the big cycle. What is it? Like being fluid and adjusting. Because in our cultures, we had that. Each year, we would adjust according to whether it was going to be a hot year or a cold year. And just come the cooler climate in our culture, where I am, the mob that live here, the Darug people, they went, no, actually, it's not the Darug people because I'm on the other side of the river. Because rivers are our boundary lines, hey, Donny?
Yeah, boundary lines, certain mountains, certain ranges.
Yeah, they're our natural boundary lines, and I presume you had the same thing, no, say, that rivers and mountains and certain places were the boundary lines?
Yeah, they were pretty loose. The boundaries, rivers were, well, they were basically our highways and roads because we used canoes.
Yeah, right.
And so my ancestors were all around the Great Lakes. That's why we became so prosperous, is because we surrounded the entirety of the Great Lakes, the largest freshwater entities in North America. So the Anishinaabe people were a huge territory. And then we were able to use the lakes to go down to the south and then share our trades. And so we were a very prosperous people, which is funny because the United States rarely ever talk about the Anishinaabe. They might talk about the Chippewa because that's what they labeled us. The French called us Ojibwe, but in our language, it is Anishinaabe. But is it not true that this last equinox is the beginning of your mob's year? Because doesn't your like yearly cycle start, or it's a main accent on the cycle, the spring?
The spring and summer. Yeah, we prepare. Winter, you do burning offs. You change it, the diet, everything changes for winter, and then summer's a bit more of a abundant time. Yep. What I was saying. Sorry, Donny?
Some might even call it creation time.
Yeah, because we don't have Christmas, but at that time of year when it's warm and abundant, traditionally what we'd do is the mobs that were closest to us, and it's usually three mobs at a time, the people who had excess would bring all their stuff, and there would be a pole in the ground, and all the stuff that they had excess of would be put around there, and the people that came that didn't have them items and needed it, they would take what they needed only. We were not greedy. We never took more than what we needed, and we'd take what we needed, and there was enough for everybody. And then because there was celebration time, there was abundance of food, there was enough food. And often we'd party on for 3 months at a time, wouldn't we, Donny? We're very much party people. And when I say party, that means, getting with the relos, doing things. There's so much I want to talk about, and I've actually just gone skip.
Well, it's so cool about, these cycles, because information, data is power. And if you look historically with what happened in the Middle East, when the museums of Baghdad were ramshackled, and then also when the museums of Egypt had the same, where a bunch of history, data, information was stolen in the form of cuneiforms, these little cylinders. And on these cylinders, they had the written history of the ancient Babylonians and the Sumerians and the Mesopotamians. And it talked about trade and economics and the weather. And so the powers that should not be, I think, believe, have utilized this hidden information from the masses in order to proclaim such things as, oh, look, it's climate change. When actually it is a cycle of the Mother Earth, or the Earth, or as we call it, Aki, to go through its change, which is a huge cycle, whether those cycles be a minute, an hour, a day, a week, a month, a year, a decade, epoch, it goes greater and greater. And we would utilize the most stationary map or time keep, the stars. And then they would be like, hey, look, we've noticed through the history that when this cluster of stars look like this, then the possibility of greater floods, of strange weather phenomenons, of rising tides. So they would utilize these calendars to adjust. An example where I'm at, we have the Red River, and they knew every so many years the Red River would flood. But they have manipulated the river so much that it's not a specific cycle anymore. And it's more or less all over the place, pun intended.
Oh, sorry, I was playing around with tech. I'm trying to figure out how to give people wrenches. Yeah, we never had that kind of stuff, I don't think. But every time I think about it, I'll go back and I think, and I know that a lot of our people were executed, massacred, whatever word you want to use, our old people, and we got only half the knowledge, because when the English came and executed, massacred, whatever you want to put it, our people, they killed the old people most of the time first, and the knowledge holders, because there were things they didn't want them telling the future people, obviously, and certain things got lost. And I think thereof our technologies, we had natural technologies, and we had a verbal history. We'd pass on our verbal history, but we did have symbols and written things. And I'm going to let Donny say a bit more about that, about our written stuff, because he knows more about it than I do. I'll keep throwing out. Donny's just there, and I go, gang, throw you in the deep end, bro. You can do it to me too, don't worry, one day. Donny?
Symbols. What do you mean by symbols? Is
Oh,
that
because people think we didn't have a written language. We were just verbal. But as you go further back in history, we actually dropped a lot of things.
yeah. Yes, I've noticed that, especially, what do they call them things now? Grind grooves. You'll see symbols there around the grooves where they were sharpening old axes and spearheads. And if you know how to interpret, they were actually telling the younger ones stories by using symbols. It's not exactly a written language, but it is a written language. If you understand what I mean.
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, me and Luna. Oh, I'm sorry. Were you going to continue, Donnie?
No. You can go now.
Thank you. Me and Luna were talking about that earlier this week about, we had these symbols. Some people call them petroglyphs. Some people call them hieroglyphs, iconography, symbology. But it might be as simple as a circle with a dot in the center of it. And that circle with a dot may have a 3 hour and 33-minute story to it. I had to specifically pick that number.
Yeah.
Sorry. You know the arc of it.
Yeah.
Noah's Ark. No, Ark.
Hold on there, Nese. I'm making a cover.
That's not fair because I was just about to half do stuff like to come back. Like I said, it's way back late in time for you.
I know my pipe was only full of one pull. And here I thought it was half full or more. And it is a peace pipe because any pipe filled with cannabis is a peace pipe.
A lot of our stuff, except for what we put in stone and on stone, whether they would either be landmarks and there'd be a story about the landmark and the different places in that area, like I got backwards. There'd be a place with landmarks in it and different stories in different parts of that place and with different landmarks, right? So you've got a whole area and you've got all these different things in one area. And this all the stories.
They're called libraries, Luna.
Yeah, it's a natural library. Actually,
well, it is right,
Sid made a comment. I didn't put it up, but Sid was saying we need to check out the library that the Vatican's got. And I'm like, yeah, we will one day. But it's underground, I think there's.
I'd rather check out the library in the mountains of Switzerland.
Yeah, well, that's what I mean, in the mountains, in the land again. I've got to say, as much as we have today and as far back as things were, our stuff still survived. Our paintings are still on the rocks. Our carvings are still there. We've still got culture. Like, we still have culture, and we're lucky. And what's left of it, they try to decimate both our mobs. And not only that, for everyone else's culture, like Sid's culture, it's still alive up there. And most people wouldn't think so, but from talking to Sid, they still have that lens I was talking about in the beginning, that cultural lens that we look through. And for me, it's chronic. Like, my friends get cranky at me sometimes because I'll go somewhere. I'll tell you. Once when I was at a work thing, we were all supposed to go in, and this lady was gonna put these things up on the screen in front of us, and we had to respond to each section. And one question come up, and I'm looking at it, and I couldn't understand this question. And I'm looking, And I must have had this tortured look on my face because sister girl next to me goes, "Are you right there, Emery?" And I'm like, "Yeah, I don't understand that question." She goes, "What do you mean?" And then I explained it to her how I was perceiving this question. And then she just started laughing and she fell back in a chair. And I'm going, what? And she goes, not, they don't mean it that way. What she was telling me, I had the wrong lens on. I was looking at it through my cultural, spiritual lens. And she's going, no, you've got to put the work lens on and think of it like a white fella way. And so I did, and then it made sense. But they all have a laugh at me because in day-to-day life, that's what I'm like. I wear my cultural lens all the time. I can't really take it off. And I don't like to take it off because I don't like it the other way either. Do you two know what I'm talking about?
I look at it as a pathway that I'm on, and the pathway is kind of the line or the tightrope between the ways of my ancestors and today's world. And it's difficult sometimes to walk that tightrope because I will make it as thin as my hair. But there's other times when I find more balance and neutrality when I make that path a little bit wider. So basically, when I increase my grayness, things are a little more even keel.
What about you, Brother Nonny?
Now I lost what I was going to say.
Oh, about the culture, we're talking about the cultural lens. And how is it for you? Like, you wear a cultural lens much like I do. It doesn't come off much.
Yeah, well, I look at it through my cultural lens. I understand it, but on my European side, as you would say, I don't understand it. Does that make any sense to you too?
Yeah, kind of.
I understand it being raised in the public educational system and going into the military and seeing it in a strategic pattern of the powers that should not be, because I have to give them, the powers that should not be, credit, because their plan is incredibly meticulous and adaptive. And I do not believe that their plan was just created 100 years ago. I would dare to guess, that they're making decisions today that are to happen 100 years from now.
Probably. What a waste of time. They miss out on the moment.
But time is their illusion of keeping the money flowing, and money is power, and ultimate power
I know.
is a horrible goal.
This is what just flowed over my impaired mind at the moment. They live longer, so they plan longer. But our culture never dies, and that's why they don't like us, because they can't stamp us out no matter what. As we keep coming back and we keep finding ways to keep our culture going, because it's written in stone and all that stuff. It's written in our DNA. And I think, we know what they know. I know that much. Spiritually and all that in our culture is all the secrets. They know the same thing. The stuff we're not allowed to talk about and all that, they know it. That's what I reckon. That's why they attack us sometimes, because we know it too. I just realised I've been cooking all day. Like, I had a productive day, like I said. I'm glad I'm not on screen, because I just realised I got half the cooking all over me. All right. So where were we? Back to partway. Right back to the beginning. I remember talking about the rivers, and now they want to own them. All right.
Well, I'm going to step back a little bit with what you were just saying about, you know, I have been actively comparing the written history with what I've been shared or what elders have shared with me, and then trying to simplify it. Because I find in my experiences that the simplest answer usually is the right answer. That my ancestors would would more or less strive for the simple, even willing to go through the hardship, but the simple logic of existence. You know, an example is paying attention to the critters outside like we are right now, and it's like, oh my gosh, look at how fat that squirrel is. I'm sorry for body shaming that squirrel, but when we notice these squirrels are extremely fat, especially early on before October, the 8th month of the year, then it's like, oh no, we need to prepare, because this is usually a sign that says the winter is going to be cold.
Ah, so you're reading the bush.
Well, that's the beauty of living in synchrony or in symbiotic relationship with our surroundings.
That's
Be-
right. That's how I do mine. It's actually I read the bush. You can always tell what's going to happen next because the bush actually tells you. It's plain and simple, and I'll back you on that word. Make it as simple as possible, and it's more to understand. You can understand it a lot more. They say, yeah, because if you read the bush, it will tell you what's going on, your surroundings. Yeah,
well, I would agree on one aspect, but as we were talking about that path where technology is on one side, or the powers that should not be's world and my ancestral world, I absolutely agree that you can step outside and pay attention, observe what is your surroundings, and that will say, okay, this is how you prepare for the next cycle. And it's like, okay, well, we've been counting the full moons here in the northern hemisphere in March during the spring equinox. That is the beginning of our calendar system for the year. And so we know that we're at an equinox. We know there's going to be the longest day and then an equal day. And then we have until that equal day again to prepare for that time of the longest night. And in the northern hemisphere, when we still had the bush, our forest, there were animals that were out in the bush that would rather eat you, because humans, for the most part, are pretty good prey. And so, unless you went out with a group, you had a hard time surviving out in the bush or out in the forest. I'm not saying it's not attainable, but for the most part, on average, if you were out into the forest by yourself, you weren't surviving with all the bears and the saber-toothed tigers and the wolves and the such. And so it's time to utilize the cycle of the spring to plant our foods, and the summer to gather our fish and that which is able to be stored over that period of great darkness i.e., the winter. And so we count the moons and we say there are 13 moons to a year's cycle. Now, right now, we are on the full moon. So I believe that this full moon today is the 8th full moon, and the next new moon is the start of November. So we're almost, I got to reframe that. So it's the 9th moon and not the 8th moon. That we are actually one lunar calendar month ahead of schedule of where we should be. And so if my prediction is correct by the way that I observe, which is actually funny to me because I'm blind, but as I take measure or the count of the full moons, then like Donnie said, we're able to predict what is coming next. You know, and on top of that, it's like, okay, so it's this new moon. I'm noticing all of the geese are flying south. So here is another marker of reading the bush saying, you better start preparing because here comes winter. And it's
So
going to.
you're saying that you reading your bush up there, Nese, that you're saying that you're going to have an early winter and you need to prepare for it. Is that what you're talking?
That it's going to be more of a colder winter.
Yeah.
That's kind of what the signs are saying.
More of a colder winter, not an early winter.
Yeah.
Okay. There's probably a good possibility of that being.
Yeah, I predicted a lot of people were a little upset with me last week because I said, we're going to have snowfall within a week and a half. And, more times than not, we don't start getting snowfall till after Halloween.
Yeah.
But lately, it seems like we would get a little dusting of snow in October. And it's not that surprising to have snow on the ground during Halloween.
Okay.
Everything's changing now, but we got birds that belong up the mountains, that's at the top of the mountains and halfway down. They're called bell birds and a couple of others. Since I was little, hang on, I just got to fix it up. Since I was little, they were always up there, and I know about 10 years ago they started coming down here, and I noticed the other day the bellbirds especially, there's a certain terrain and climate that they like up the mountains. They're here, and I remember my brother telling me that the fish up north have moved down south, and they rely on a certain temperature water. So that tells me that temperature that was up there is coming here, and we are getting more water, and up there's more tropical. It has more water than us normally, but now we're getting more water here, and the fish are coming down here. So that tells me that things are changing overall, no matter what we perceive the world to be, as in whatever way you look at it, scientifically or culturally, it is changing. And that was the question I was have for you, Nese. When you talk about the planets and stuff, in the Northern Hemisphere they talk about different planets coming in, and would that be part of what's happening, do you think?
Oh, absolutely. We have when we talk about the 7th fire prophecy. And I believe think and feel that we are in this precipice, sorry, the precipice of this occurrence. And to what extreme it may occur, I do not have a clue. I can make my assumptions, my theories, but it's going to be one hell of a ride. And that's the beautiful of having a lifetime here, is that we're going to have highs and lows in the microcosm and the macrocosm. Excuse me. And it would be, excuse me, can't get that mute. It would seemingly be that if we collectively saw a major occurrence in the heavens, in the stars, that made us ponder our existence and the miraculousness of that experience, that it could possibly be a kumbaya moment. However, if one of these asteroids or celestial bodies get too close to the moon and the earth, it will have a major cataclysmic occurrence on the earth. And that is where the ultimate question is, when, because it's not if it's going to happen, it is when it's going to happen, because my people talk about Mother Earth or the planet going through these major shifts. And again, it goes back to that cycle. Is it going to be a 1 minute cycle, a day cycle, a year, or what's the count?
Well, all I know is that, sorry about the kettle going on in the background. All I know is that a few years ago, well, quite a few years ago now, the mother told me that changes were coming, physical changes, right? Not spiritual ones, physical ones. Spiritual changes also, but this particular thing was about physical changes. And she showed me a vision of water coming, and in that water with heaps of fish. And she said to me, I can do this in an instant. I can bring water up in the desert with fish already in it and make a place just like that. And I remember telling my husband, and it's not something I went around telling everyone. There's a lot of things I never went around telling everyone, but now's the time to say things, I think. Anyway, the other day when my hubby does a lot of computer work like most fellas do, the news and all that stuff. Anyway, he calls me and he goes, look at this. And lo and behold, somebody filmed in the desert, the water bubbling up, and there were fish rolling along with it, and it just kept coming and coming and coming. And I looked at him, I said, where's that? He said, in Australia. I'm like, oh my God, she told me this was possible. And this is like 10, 15 years ago, I'm going back. She told me this was possible and this was coming, and here it is. So like I said, we're on a cycle, but we're on the precipice of a great cycle. So I feel in our cultures, this is the missing information, and there's only pieces of it here and there. And I want to ask Donny, in our cultures, Donny, is there anything about changes in the past, any stories that you know about different things happening?
Only vague ones, Luna. It's like the fiery turtle that made that hit the, came down and hit the mother and buried all the trees. That's the past history I was told. These trees turned to rock, And these rocks, they mine it today as they call it coal.
Yeah, I haven't heard that story. I heard of a story where this was a long time ago story, because this is when things were giant. The volcanoes went off, and it was about two characters, two friends, males, and the lava was coming, and they wrapped themselves in a giant waratah leaf, and they're fireproof. Waratah leaves are, and obviously this leaf was big enough to wrap two humans in and protect them from the heat from the lava. That's the only story I remember. And yeah, there's a couple of rain stories, but they were really long ago. There should be stories in between that talk about, unless this cycle is that large, that's how long ago it happened. I don't know. So this is what I'm trying to track down too, say what the size of the cycle is we're in. I think it's a very large one, because trying to track cultures and stories to match up, I only keep coming up with something that happened a long time ago.
Yes.
Yeah, it's difficult when you find out that the powers that should not be have infiltrated every aspect of existence. And and so we can just pay attention to when we have these epiphanies. The latest buzzword is they're calling them downloads.
Yeah, I know.
But whether you want to call them downloads or visions or dreams or day thoughts or daydreams, we get into semantics. The fact is, individuals are making these predictions of what's going to happen, and they're coming to fruition. So that means individuals have these talents of prophesizing. And it's funny because here in America, we're talked about, they talk about the prophesized people, and people start talking about the Hebrews or the Jews, that they're the prophesized people. However, I would make the argument that the prophecies of my ancestors have more accurately come into fruition than the prophecies of the Hebrew Torah. And so I would say, hey, of course, I'm being a little ethnocentric in saying, hey, my people prophesize things too.
Yes.
Well, we have a story of the water coming back. I know that much, and certainly that's happening. The water is coming back. But I think, in language, this is, like you said, it's called download. In our cultural ways, they're visions or connections. And it drove me to think, in the future, how are we going to tell our stories? How are we going to tell our cultural stories? Are they going to be told in the new language of downloads and all that kind of talk, right? Which I don't know a lot of, obviously. Or is it going to stay intact? Oh, I hear my belly, sorry. Do you know what I'm saying? We'll be telling the story of something, and they went on a vision quest, but they went on a download quest. You know what I mean? It'll say, how's it going to sound? I'm kind of worried for our people as a whole, all over the world, our language.
Well, you're going to go to university and like Johnny Mnemonic or the Neuralink or like in the Matrix, you're going to say, yeah, I'd like Aborigine culture pre-colonialism. And then they'll jack you in and it'll be do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Or actually there won't even be any sounds. And next thing you know the history of this, that, and the other thing.
Sid
A
and
major download.
Yeah, major download. Yeah, it's a bit scary. I don't. There's a point to this stuff that I don't know. I'm a bit skeptical about it. How far are we going to go? I used to make jokes to my kids when they were playing the computer and they should be doing something constructive in real life time. Do you want me to just plug it in the back of your head and I'll get a chute for your room so the food can just go through? And they just give me this weird look. And we're not far away from that. Just plug it in. You plug your body in.
How many? Well, this is where it goes back to the construct of the powers that should not be in their ultimate plan, because if logically, strategically, if they can make regular world, if they can make reality so horrible, then how easy would it get to be like, hey, you know what? We have this new facility to where we can put you in a pod and we can more or less download you. You know, where you can go in a pod and we can feed you, and the pod is big enough that your bodies can move around 360 degrees, and you don't have to worry. You can just poop and pee in your fluid, and we have a special mixture of chemicals that it won't hurt you. You can just stay in your matrix.
Pod people.
Exactly.
No, thanks. You know, I thought about the other day. I had a really down day, and hang on a second. Get off there. I had a down day. I thought that, you know how people go, I live at the bottom of the bottle. I don't drink alcohol, right? But I thought I can go over across the road to the pub and have an alcoholic drink. And I thought about living in a bottle, and then I thought about, hang on a minute, the other version of that is living in a pod, exactly what you said. It's like living in the bottom of a bottle. And I chose not either. I just chose to move through it. That's why I worry. That's why I'm do this. This is why I bring up our cultures, because that kind of world isn't really good for you. Physically, mentally, spiritually, you know, whatever way you want to put it. Our cultures were put in place for reasons. They lasted a long, 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 long time.
Was that challenge that we continue to go through of trying to find balance or content? And it's not difficult to find distraction. A proclamation I've made, t-shirt or button. How can we pay attention when distraction is for free? Our children are being so bombarded by stimuli from all facets of existence. So we're surprised when they have little to no attention span.
Yeah.
And this is happening to adults now also.
Yeah, I realised that. Yeah, I went for a walk today, and it was beautiful. I even noticed how the animals changed to my frequency. And on the way there, I was in slow mode, and they come really close. On the way back, I was thinking I better walk a bit faster and get some fitness up and, you know, a bit of air in my body. So I was thinking about that, and then I noticed the birds were like, "Look, she's coming," and they flew out the way. And I'm like, sorry. And then I noted, this is how I noted it, because I said sorry to them for scaring them. And then I realised, what did I do to scare them? I thought, I was only thinking about me, my fitness, and tonight's show, right? And I thought, that's not good. The other way was better. I can walk fast and think the other way still and just get my body to walk fast. And I noticed where my mind went. Then I come home and loaded up the show for tonight and realised, that's what I realised. Oh, shit, this is the difference. I just lived the difference by walking up the shop and coming home and what I was thinking and feeling, and the animals told me so. I feel like saying to everyone, you want to save the world, switch all this off right now. Don't go near it. Go out and talk to people in real time like we used to. Go and do ceremony of whatever your belief is, and save us all. That's how I feel. It'll save yourself. By saving yourself, each individual, we're saving everybody from what's coming. There's two things to what's coming, I feel, brothers. One's technology and that pathway, and the other one is a spiritual pathway and nature. And I feel like a line's been drawn between the two of them, because I know that the technology we have isn't nature friendly, and there is a kind of technology that they have that is, and it's beneficial to all things, and they obviously haven't got that in mind. They've got a different plan. But this energy that's coming that everyone can feel, and we know we're on a major point of a cycle, whether it's big or small, has an upside to it, and nature holds that key, I think. And I wrote some notes earlier because I was thinking about it after my walk, right? What was one of the things I wrote? Just give me a moment while I read through it. Community celebration. Oh, yeah, that's what it was. So a lot of the time we used to have community stuff, like we'd harvest together, like we did everything together culturally, right? Imagine this. Get your day out. What are you doing today? Say we're going to go looking for the harvested foods, because we grew crops a little different to you. You know, say ours was higgledy-piggledy all over the place. You actually had to walk through the bush and find these places. Yours was more in one area. But imagine getting up and then you go to harvest, and you're not doing it on your own, and you're not doing it because you have to, and you're not doing it because you've got to make so much money per whatever you're going out to harvest. You're doing it, and the person in your mob, next door neighbour, no matter what you live in, whether it be a lean-to, a teepee or a house or an igloo, whatever your cultural house was, your neighbour's going to go and do it too, because it's beneficial for everyone, and you're not alone. And you actually spend the whole day till lunchtime doing that with other people and talking to them and being in real life, real time, sharing all those things that we, you know, and you had less problems, because most of the problems you had back then, we had
Well, I don't want to go back to bow and arrows. I don't want to go back to living in huts, but I would like to utilize the teaching and standards of my ancestors, because we're living here in North America where it's really cold, especially where I'm living right across the river from Fargo, where we have the conversions of three not jet streams, but wind streams. So it gets windy and it gets cold, and it's been like 50 below zero here at times. So to be in a teepee or in a wigwam or a longhouse, you know, I'd be like okay with my mucklucks and my parka. But the thing is you're right when you said earlier that the technology that is being utilized is not for the full benefit of us, these humans. And we're absolutely living up to the definition of human, because hue means to mold, to manipulate, to hone. Man. So to mold, to manipulate, to sculpt, to hewn man is definitely the ultimate goal of the powers that should not be. So hopefully Annette and Zed and Sid aren't being manipulated too much at this precious moment.
It's just the way he said it. It's like manhandling, manipulated. But notice it's always man. You don't have the women doing it. It's be woman manipulated. That'd be a different word. But actually, what I was going to say is kind of like that. Our view, our lens that we have on nature and animals, like, I don't know about you two, but when I go outside and if there's an insect or a bird or a cat or a dog or whatever, where it depends where I am, kangaroo, whatever, comes near me, I give it the same respect as I would you or anyone listening, and you fellas there. I'd give them the same respect, talk to you the same. Hello, how are you today? How you been? And if they got a problem, they'll look at me and I'll sense a problem and I'll talk to them and go, you know, like I would. I'll give them the same respect. I'll say goodbye. Thank you for sharing that time with me. That's how I treat animals and insects, exactly like people. And I noticed that this world is calling for that connection. It's like they first set out and destroyed it, and now they want it. And they're coming to us to find it. And that's all it is realising that we are nature. We're not technology. We might be smart enough to have technology, but are we really? Because we don't recognise the other form of technology that has happening right around us in the air. Sid and Nese earlier were talking about electrical fields and stuff like that. That's in the air. Like, how come we're not cultivating that like our ancestors did? They weren't that dumb. They wouldn't have survived. They must have had more than they're letting us know. They had that harmony. We had ceremony before we went hunting. There was a reason for that. It wasn't just because we like putting paint on and dancing around. I'm going on a rave now. Come on, fellas.
I'm like, let her preach on, sister. I'm packing my pipe.
That's why I'm raving on here. I had a pipe.
You're doing well there, sis.
Thanks. I'll tell you why. I'll carry on about this.
Oh, I forgot. Hello, Jocelyn.
Oh, yeah, Jay's been here all the whole time. I've got a bit of a peeve with this modern day living, because being sensitive how I am spiritually and that, it's pretty hard to exist in not normal day-to-day living the way we live. In like going to town can be a bit of an exhausting thing, or a strange thing, depends on the day. Donny's met me, he knows, he's seen me go from closed flower to open flower when we got onto country. You saw me glow, man. So I have difficulty, and I know for a fact that if this was 400 years ago, before anyone claimed anything, the elders would have had me, and I wouldn't have had none of those problems. They would have had me, they would have guided me and showed me stuff and said that this is what's happening, and it all would have been good and sent me off, and I would have been fine. This way feels backwards, like the journey I've had in this modern world, it's like a backwards journey to that place. And I suppose I hold not a grudge or resentment, but one of that kind of hard feeling towards modern day. And the more I see technology come that is not nature friendly, that little feeling raises an ugly head, and I get puking some days. But yeah, that's my problem. But I see it for the world, I see my kids, your kids, us even, getting funneled into this world, because it's taken me and Donny 3 years to be able to just be here and have what we have today, wherever you are. It's taken a long journey for us to understand this technology and be comfortable with it. And we're technologically challenged. Whereas for Nese's been doing it way before me and Donny, because you've had to head off there, but you still kept yourself. Yeah, I'm frightened of losing myself in that technology. I don't want to lose those things that I have with nature. and it makes me feel not happy to live in a pod, you know, and what you see on screen right now to be put into your head until you think that you're really there but you're not, and to live like that, it scares me. I don't want to live like that.
Dick Gregory, one of my favorite historical entities, he broke down the whole thing about a day, and I might have shared this with you before, but you know, so we have a day that's 24 hours, and the doctor claims that we should be getting 8 hours of sleep for optimal health. So then that leaves us one cat waiting to get some food or a treat
Yeah,
or let outside.
no,
Right? Or did you have something to share?
He has something to share, because before, when I was talking about the old ways and living outside, he made a comment and he was saying he doesn't want to live the old ways either. He likes living inside a house.
Well, all you have to do is tell Luna and she'll do it for you. Well, don't tell me, tell her.
Yeah. What do you want there, Burian?
Go and talk to Uncle Donny. You want to talk to Uncle Donny? Come on.
Yeah, I'm a Burian.
For the last 3 years when I've been talking to Donny, every time I ring up, Merlin the cat appears out of nowhere. He can be outside and he somehow knows Donny's on the phone, and Donny speaks to him in his traditional language, and the cat actually answers, and we witness this. I wonder if it works for you, Nese, speaking language to him. And I reckon animals have got a translator built in, you know. They can understand everyone's language. It's just that we can't.
I think with animals, if I'm to make an assumption on it, that it's maybe like 70% like mental telepathy and 30% the nuance of your voice.
Yeah. Yeah. We should be living like that. I think we used to live like that. I think traditionally our senses were way, way up. And I think about living in America with those big bears and everything, that your senses would have to be way, way 10 feet above what you're doing so you can get eaten. Because in Australia we don't have them kind of things, so we can relax.
I beg to differ.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say something, Donny. Why? Because of the snakes. Oh, the hairy men.
No. Still, I haven't got over that marsupial line.
Yeah, we do have, like, I got to tell you, since you said that, I'm doing some work in this week coming, and I looked up to where it was, and it's up the mountains. And I looked at where it was, and it says it's got this walk, and I thought, oh, that's nice. When I got a break, I might go for a walk. And I'm thinking, oh, I recognise that place. And then I remembered there was a news thing. This fella there had a wedding up there one night, and I can't mention the place because people won't go there. They had a wedding up there one night, and this guy had a few drinks. He decided to go for a walk, and he went missing. You might know this one, Donny. He went missing, and they couldn't find him. And search party, I think it was a week or something later, and they found him stuck on the side of a cliff. And the hairy men got him. I reckon it was the hairy men. If it wasn't the hairy men, it was the others.
A dingo ate your baby.
Oh, aliens, yeah. dingo with rope, and you can climb. But yeah, I recognise this place, and I said to my hubby, I'm going for a walk. And he goes, why, you want to be taken by hairy men? I'm like, no. They wouldn't take me. Yeah, so this place is the same place where this guy went missing. And
yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about? Yeah.
Yeah, he's what's that bloke's name? That ex-copper. He talks about it.
Yep, that's right. Yeah, same place. Right. Yeah, so that's going to be interesting. I am going to go for a walk. Are you telling me not to? I am going to go for a walk in the daytime, and I'll just see. I'm just going to have a look around. I smell.
By the way, Luna, he's saying let me out.
Yeah, I know, because he's hating that. Yeah. See?
Now, he said.
Yeah. All right, I'm coming. Say goodbye to everybody. Oh, here's Dad.
He just told you to hurry up.
You going out or not? No, he shook his head. He plays games with me. He plays games with me. Oh, shh. Shh. Sorry. All right. I don't have a hard time shutting him up. Where was I? The
Bisam.
The things I put up. Hey, my husband doesn't complain about me yakking on all day. It's the cat. Yeah, back to where we were. Gee, we ended up with hairy people. You got legends about hairy people, haven't you, Nese?
Yeah, I was just joking with a friend of my daughter's who's 15, and he shaves more than I do.
Ha! That's funny. He's a hairy man. Yeah.
But yeah, we definitely have about the entities of the wilderness, sometimes referred to as Sasquatch or Bigfoot. Even on the White Earth Reservation, there's discussion about entities of the forest that make themselves known.
Yes. Same here.
Yeah. Entities of the forest. And that's another. Sorry, go down.
On your reservation there, Nese, is there so special places where you're not allowed to go?
Well, there's places where entities will say, hey, it's just better not to go there.
Yeah.
You know, but I mean, as long as you go cautiously and you do it in a respectful manner. However, on the other spectrum of it, you know, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. And so it is, well, there is no absolute when it comes to science. There is no scientific absolute. And so, you know, there'll be a caution sign on the road, slippery when wet, and depending on the circumstance, a car may find out that it's not that slippery or it's super slippery. So the same goes with the forest, where if plenty of people are like saying, hey, you know, when people tend to go into this area, they don't come back. So it's probably in your best interest not to go.
Yeah. It was the same here. Like, if people go there and they go missing or dive there, like, you wouldn't go there, would you? No. It's plain and simple. Yeah.
Well, that's that whole thing of the ego, you know, where we see a rule or if we see a guideline and the individual will be, nah, I'm different.
Yeah, we get that a lot out here too. Yeah.
And some of those entities that do make it back have some incredible stories.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, they do. Here, initiated people get the privilege of all those things.
Well, they get to go out in the bush and play poker with the Yahweh.
Yeah.
Or do you guys have, does your mob have like, or can you share some of the cultural games that you guys played?
Yeah, it was some sort of a ball game we used to play.
Yeah, we had ball games.
Yeah, yeah.
God, I should know this, you know why? Because once a year we got like a mini Olympics for all the Aboriginal kids at the schools. Oh yeah, we've got them games as well. We do netball and all that normal sport, but we have Aboriginal games, and you think I should know what they are?
Well, the banksters, they utilized some of the games that the Anishinaabe played, where they would say the indigenous people had several games of chance. And now come on down to our bigger, brighter, look at all the lights casino and try your game of chance by utilizing our casinos and allegedly helping the indigenous people make more money when it is not the fact. Historically, what happened is that the banksters and lawyers that knew all about casinos came to the reservations and said, hey, according to the law, if you have a casino, you won't have to pay taxes. And the reservations would say, that's a great idea, but we don't even have money to build homes. How can we do such a thing? And then they would say, well, I'll tell you what, we'll build the casino for you, and we want to have a 50-year lease where for 50 years you pay us 33% and 3.
Yeah.
Well, we've talked about having casinos in Sydney here in our community, and we all said no because we know our mob, they'll all gamble their money away and it'll make more problems in the community with gambling, and we already got one. And then they'll drink more and then they'll do all that. So we've banned that kind of thing. We've got one in Sydney called Star City. I've never been there. But we've got one gambling casino. But the pubs have got poker machines and stuff. And what's that other thing, Donny, where it's on the screen and you can do bets?
Bingo.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, we've got
The biggest thing up around this area here, Luna, is bingo.
Oh, I like bingo because bingo is fun, but look what they reduced us to. We got Sid Rich here. Sid, he's dropped in. He wants to say hello, and I want to ask Sid because Sid's traditional fella in his own country there, and he's even got 7 sister mountains, like our story. And once we presented on the caption show when we did the 7 sisters, I think you were there, Brother Nese. And I forgot to put it in, but we're going to do another one in after the year's out on a proper cultural one like that. But I'm going to add Sid, and he's going to tell us about. Hopefully, he's going to tell us a little bit about his culture.
Hold on to your seat.
Yeah, hold on, and it's morning. It's morning, so we might be lucky. Hang on, Sid, I'm putting you in now. Welcome, brother Sid, and welcome to the day.
Hello, hello, my friends. Yes, it's early here. You're very lucky today.
Yep.
And the seven sisters are still here.
They're still there. And what's this? Can you tell us a bit of a story about that? Is there any story in your culture that goes with that?
Well, it's kind of like a mountain of fairy tales.
Ooh.
Yeah, that's what we would say, like in English. We use different words, but yeah, that's the best I could say. Yeah, there's a lot of stories about those mountains. And every time a mountain has a funny shape, it goes down in history. That's just the way it is.
Ja, vieska destu.
Yeah, I want to say, Donny and Nese, say good day to brother Sid.
Hey, Sid. Yeah, my
Hello,
brother.
Donny.
How's my favorite Norwegian wood?
How is my favorite Anushinabe? I am great, my friend.
It's
Awesome
good to hear you.
Sunday. Beautiful weather. Sun is shining. Leaves are falling off the trees. It's definitely autumn.
Yeah, are you having a colder than usual, warmer than usual fall?
Nah, it's usual.
Yeah, it's
These
within
It
the
seven,
full
hasn't been
spectrum.
anything special this year.
Sid,
Yeah.
these seven sister mountains you got there, have they got special names for each mountain?
Uh, I think so.
Yeah.
I
Is
think
there?
so, yeah. But like the common name is like um the Seven Sisters for all of them together.
Yeah, but each mountain peak would it have a special name
Yeah.
like a
And
female's name?
it's on a big mountain. It's called the Helgelands Mountains.
Yeah.
Um
What's that in English?
well, you can't translate the name of a place. It's the same in English as in Norwegian.
Oh, okay.
Just like you can't translate Sydney.
Right.
Yeah.
Translate Sydney.
But um the saying is that there were seven sisters that were chased down the mountains by a horseman after a wild chase of the beautiful Lekmøya, which Møya means like a maiden.
Hmm. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Did he catch him, or they got away from him?
Nobody knows.
Well, it's funny because it reminds me of the story of Devil's Tower or
Yeah,
Spirit
yeah,
Tower in
yeah.
Wyoming, where allegedly there were 7 Indian maidens that were chased by a giant bear, and they stopped and started singing their death song, and some entity saw pity on them and raised them up from the ground, and the bear clawed, and that's what made Devil's Tower look like it did. And eventually it raised the 7 sisters up into the heavens, and now we have the 7 stars and the constellation.
Yeah.
Ursa Major, Ursa Minor, the big bear, the little
So
bear.
the names of the mountain tops are Bottenkrona, Grytotten, Skjerdingen, Tvillingan, Kvastinden, og Stortinden. That's the 7 mountain tops. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the seven sister story that I was told was there was a eighth sister, and she was chased by the Orion brothers. So she ran and hid herself under a mountain with the sacred crystals. Uh, Basically, that's how the story goes.
But you know, in
I can
all
see that.
cultures, we have many of the same histories. They just
Yeah,
like different names or something, but it's always the same story.
It's a
yes, that's
parallel.
right.
Yeah,
Very parallel to each other, isn't it?
I think there's a base story that has evolved all over the world, and we just have our own differences on that story.
Yeah, I was just about to
It
say
all
the same.
comes from one of the same stories, yeah,
Well,
and it's all developed from one story.
I do think the significance of the story is the number 7.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah,
And I
7
want,
sisters. Yeah,
yeah. So what's it telling us? Well, what's it trying to tell us? So obviously it's female, right? Because they're sisters. They're always 7
yeah,
sisters.
they were chased
Yeah, they were
by
chased
a horseman.
by a man. Yeah, because in our story it's the same, a man.
Yeah.
So there's 7 females
But
chased
And
by a
it was a
male.
maiden.
Yes, well,
That
because
was
that
very
one,
important.
yes,
Yeah,
the one that particular maiden was very important.
yeah, because
Um,
she was like the most beautiful of the 7 sisters.
yeah,
Yes.
And the getting her back was really important. Everyone got together to, in our story, they all got together to make a plan to get her back.
Well, I would put out there that if you look at the lunar calendar, which used to be 28 days, 28 days can be divided by 4, which is a huge sacred number when it comes to a circle, and equally dividing it
Yeah, yeah,
into 4 parts. And so that arc, that 90-degree arc, is 7 days, 7 days, 7 days, 7 days. And these sisters being chased, or the 7 being chased, could be an allegory of the change of the cycle, where the 7 days are in distress. You know, the possibility of
oh
these
yeah,
7
yeah.
days.
7 days of mayhem
Yes.
before the calm comes again.
Yep. Or even like the disruption of the cycle is always potential.
Yeah,
And interesting enough that when we look at our days of the week, we have our 7 days. And
yeah.
even more interesting, if you look at North America and the names of the days of the week, they're from Norwegian ancient knowledge.
Yeah, it's all the
Thursday
Germanic
was
language. Monday, Tuesday. Yeah,
Tuesday, wasn't it Tweenus Day? And
we
then
say Tirsdag.
Wednesday,
We say onsdag.
and then Thor's Day,
Yeah, we have Thursday, Torsdag. We
and then
actually say it
Friday was
Torsdag.
Frista Day.
Fredag. It's
Fredag,
like
something.
almost like the day of the weekend. Now it's free day. Yeah.
Carol put up something interesting in Greek mythology. I'll read it for you, Nese. In Greek mythology, the 7 sisters were
Oh yeah.
chased by
Yeah.
the hunter Orion. Zeus transformed them into stars to save them, but one sister fell in love with a mortal and hid, which is why we only see 6 stars.
It's the
We
same
have
story.
we got a similar story. The girl was left behind. That's when they captured her. She was left behind. I met a young girl. She said, she, for some reason, she was only young and she really affiliated with the sister that got left behind. And at that time, she didn't know about any of these stories because she was too young. And I often wondered, well, there's more to this story. And I understand they say that 7 is a very important number because we have 7 energy points in our body, 7 days. Like spiritually, 7 is a very important number. But I feel when it comes to the story is too alike, where the woman, this particular woman, gets taken and then we have to plan to get her back, or there's some, some way of getting her back. In the Greek story, you don't get her back. In our story, you get her back. Do you get her
I
back in
think
your story, Sid?
I think that this story is thousands and thousands and thousands of years old, and it's
Correct.
been retold, and rehashed a little bit. So
Yeah.
it's probably not like the same story it used to be. Like that's why it's different all over the world. But maybe 4 or 5 thousand years ago, everybody had the same story.
And is it possible they're talking about heavenly bodies?
I think
Um,
so.
yeah, and the one that gets stolen, maybe another heavenly body covers the sister, and it looks like she's stolen.
Well,
And
thinking there is not life outside of this planet is ignorant. Yeah.
or yeah, it depends what you think. Is it someone come from another place and actually took somebody
Well,
with
not
reality?
necessarily.
Um, he knows, and nature knows these sort of questions. It's just us. We've
What
got
if there's like a parallel reality that drops in and out?
I think that reality is the veil, and it depends on the vibration of the world that drops. Yeah, I agree, and I think we're about to drop into that reality.
I think that's more sensible than aliens coming here from other planets.
I beg to differ on that one.
Yeah, I don't believe in. See, I got a different belief. Oh, it's my cat. I'm so sorry. I've been telling people he talks too much. See, I don't know what, I don't like to label anything.
Well,
But
she keeps trying to tell us about the intimate doom of the catastrophe.
Catastrophe.
That it's going to be catastrophic.
Yeah. All right, hush, please.
It's very talkative.
Yeah, he talks. He's actually, when we first discovered him talking, this is off subject, and I'll get back to the subject because there's things I want to say. We were sitting here doing our thing. I was watching something online. My husband was watching something online. It was really quiet and late at night. We let him in. He said he was hungry. We fed him because, you know, he just went meow meow. Hang on. And when he finished, he goes, "I'm finished now. Let me out." And I looked at my husband. I said, "Did you hear that?" He said, "I'm finished now. Let me out." He goes, "Yeah, I did." And then we said, "He can talk. He can talk." Now, ever since that day, this is the result. He keeps talking. I know. So I'm just going to take a moment and quieten him. But what I wanted to say is, I say extraterrestrials. Extra means more. Terrestrial is land, more land. And in our
So you
culture,
mean the the Seven Sisters is the Pleiades? There are books written about the Seven Sisters, and that's the stars in the Pleiades.
well, our Donny will confirm the Pleiades, that our mob here, we're from the Pleiades. And say the Pleiades was extra land somewhere, and the stories about others coming from lands that we don't know about and causing mischief here. That's, you know, you got to look at every angle. That I sort of
There,
go that way because I believe there's extra land and there's others that live in the extra lands. And I've
Well,
looked
if there's another, sorry, go ahead.
So I was just going to say that that's just looking at my culture. Me and Donnie have many talks because those other beings, what you call aliens, we have stories about them and they describe them, and some are nice and some aren't, and that's where I started off from because I was showing there was extra land. But that's just me personally. Everyone's entitled to their own belief. That's why we're here. Sorry, Nese, now I wish for you.
Well, I was just going to say that, you know, if we think of this earth, Aki, as what it is, and if in the heavens there is another similar earth or Aki, then there would also be another land, extra land, where entities can come from. Because my ancestors, and we talked about this a few times together ago, where we share stories of extraterrestrials, not in any sense of they're not being true. You know, we talk of them as relatives from the stars.
That's our cousins.
Yeah, they are. We're connected. We're all connected, and it's like nature. We're connected to them somehow too, even the ones we don't like. ZX. You know, it's funny you say that, ZX. They don't get along because there's been beings that I've encountered in physical form that you just don't. I don't know. Yeah, it's like that anyway.
yeah, that's true. So like the tall Nordics. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I wanted to ask, Nese, I don't know, all right, we're talking about the others, the extra land. Nase's your mob have stories about the blue kachinas and that. Is that beings or is that just heavenly body activity.
Well, that's the Southwest Paleo-Americans are the Kachinas, and a lot of them talk about the Kachinas being like the star people. And so I'm not very knowledgeable about the Kachina system because there's more than a few, and they all have their own story of origin. But the one thing that's interesting too is that my ancestors, we have stories of individuals that have traveled and come back and said, "Hey, I've gone to other more or less worlds or other lands, and they've crossed the great void of the oceans and the seas." Because it's always, and I know that's a definitive statement, but more likely within a village of 100 people, there's always, oops, said it again. They're more likely as an individual that wants to know what's beyond the mountain, what's beyond the river, where is the sun going? And they just have that travel bug. And then they would do their best to come back. And sometimes they didn't.
So here's a thing. Sorry, were you going to say something, Donny?
I'm just trying to read ZX what he wrote up.
We're made of stardust. I agree, because what's inside us is outside of us.
I think we're made out of angel dust.
Same thing.
Same thing.
I was going to say, talking about travelling on the ocean, there was a time where the ice poles, as we perceive them, or the Antarctic, or the ice ring, whichever way you want to put it, was not ice.
Oh yeah.
And the water change was a bit different. And this is where I want to ask you, Sid, is there any stories about where you live when it was warm?
Because not really. No.
Not really. No, it was always cold.
Well, no, but yeah, no, it's not really much about that here. Probably because there's not a lot of good writers in Norway that time. They were all living in Egypt.
They were living in Egypt. And they were black, by the way, not the one, the original Egypt. But that's what I'm saying. Back when it was warmer and the ice didn't come, and I've heard all stories about how the ice got here. Depends what you want to believe.
Well, we have stories about Doggerland. You know, when British islands were not islands, they were connected to the mainland Europe.
Yeah, that time, yeah, because this is what I don't get.
That's called Doggerland.
Yeah, back then there was more land because the water wasn't so high, right? And it was warmer.
Yeah, and right? That was very extremely fertile land.
Yeah. So that says that there was a time there's got to be water coming from somewhere else, because we'll take that time where the ice wasn't so predominant and it was warmer, and the poles or the ice ring weren't so full of ice, and there was green there, so you could travel to and from or past and into. So then if the ice came, and we know that ice expands and sucks water up, right?
Oh, yeah, it doesn't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. So how did we get more water if the ice came and expanded and would have took up?
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. Anyway. Yeah.
So water's come from somewhere, another source, obviously. Unless someone had a magic wand and went, fuck this, you aren't getting it. Oh, sorry, this is late night. You aren't getting out, you humans. I'm going to put an ice ring around you, and made the ice out of nothing, and that closed us in, which made the water rise. Like, there's a question mark there. Hey, Sid, like, where's this extra water come from if the ice sucked it up?
I don't know. That's a mystery to me too.
You
It
know?
doesn't make sense to me.
No. Yeah, the water's ice could exist for a time. Yeah, well, it still exists.
And they say, the polar ice is melting now. Netherlands is going underwater.
But
That
I
doesn't
thought,
make sense because
no,
there was country there when there was no ice caps.
exactly. So something's gone, like there's something here. There's a bit missing. There's an area.
Well,
there.
the full spectrum of the story is not being told, because as they're talking about the ice caps melting at one perspective, on the opposite perspective, new ice is being formed. Because
Where?
on the opposite side
No.
of the ice caps.
No. We have a country on both the South Pole and North Pole, and the ice is melting on both sides.
And I saw
can actually buy trips there.
Well, here, this will do your head in. Like to explain, my husband does he gets some good articles. He called me over on another occasion, said, look at this. Somewhere the water had retreated, and they found a place like Stonehenge that was way, way older. And I'm sorry I can't remember the country because it wasn't me looking at it. So the water retreated. Like, this is what I'm saying. There's something not right.
Well, the biggest challenge from the beginning is to believe that we're giving accurate history facts.
Information. Well,
that's the biggest challenge.
Yeah, figure out your own history.
Yeah.
But
Luna.
Yeah.
That Stonehenge you were talking about is actually up near Nese.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
A lake.
I think one of the Great Lakes receded a bit and they found it.
Wow. There you go, Nese. There's some research for you.
Yeah. Well, right where I'm living now is in the bottom of the Lake Agassiz Bowl.
Whoa.
So if you go 30 minutes to the east, you're actually on the shoreline of the lake.
Oh, so if the water comes back, you're in trouble.
Yes, absolutely. we're in a big depression.
Yeah. We had a Stonehenge here too, Sidvic. Unfortunately, they bulldozed it.
Bulldoze what?
Our Stonehenge.
They
did have a Stonehenge. Yep, they bulldozed it because they didn't want anyone to know about it.
Well, a lot of these ancient sites have been destroyed because of that. Ancient knowledge is not wanted to be commonly known, because if we know more of the true data information, then we would question, why do we continue to let these certain individuals be in such power?
Well, history classes keep evolving, you know. What I got taught in school when I had history classes is no longer true.
Yeah. It's like we have got a pyramid here, but they're trying to destroy that as well.
Pyramids all over the world?
Yes, but they're trying to destroy the one we've got.
Well, because then unfortunately, when you look at the, dogma of Christianity,
That's the religion, root of all evil.
Well, it's the challenge of, if these certain parameters are true, then it contradicts a lot of these ancient writings. And a lot of these ancient writings, or these holy texts, are dictated and determined by the priesthood. And the priesthood over the thousands of years had it pretty cushy And so they got accustomed to that position, and they did not want to give up those position of comfortableness. And
Yeah,
so
it's the
they
same like
needed,
you don't read the real Bible anymore. If you read the Bible, it's been translated and transcribed 600 times with mistakes.
right. Well, that goes with a lot of the translations of
Yeah,
these ancient works, including the cuneiform, as we were discussing earlier.
and
And
there's
this,
even stuff that's like left out that used to be in old books but is not in the new books, and
right.
they write it like what they want people to read.
And this is where we have to use really good discernment in trying to make our theories, assumptions of what happened. And
Yeah,
particularly with my ancestry, 700 years of manipulation can change our absolute belief of what historically happened.
I think you just need to look around and make up your own mind. Yeah, and believe what you want to believe in, because that's healthy for you.
Well, and we can't argue somebody's beliefs because that's each individual's absolute right to believe what they
Well, we
wish.
have, yeah, free speech, free belief. Yeah, you can believe whatever you want.
Yeah, that's why I do these. I
I don't
really,
care if you believe in the alien overlord. That's your prerogative.
Well, I would contradict that you do care, you just don't let it bother you.
Yeah,
but the,
of course I care. Yeah, I would like to
the,
discuss with people that believes that. Yeah,
the whole point of this is for us to share our individual knowledges.
Oh no,
So,
but
we're to conform people.
no.
but hey,
I,
Seven
I
Sisters.
feel,
I just I have something on that.
Yes.
So on a Norwegian site here, I have it up right now, so I'll try and translate. So the real Seven Sisters refers to the star who the Pleiades, or the seventh star. They are visible from almost all over the world, and they shine from sunset to sunrise. The telling about the Pleiades has been told in different cultures for centuries or thousands of years. Normally, listen to this. Normally, only six stars are visible, and the seventh star is said to be the gone Pleiadian, or the disappeared Pleiadian. Yeah, that's the disappeared sister. That's the maiden.
That's what we were saying there. It's covering something. That's the disappeared one.
well, Maya's, or was there more, Sid?
No, that's it. Yeah.
Well, the one thing where I immediately get this visual is that if possibly at one time we humans had seven fingers and then we lost one, and then we had six fingers and we lost one, as we continued to change or evolve into where we are heading, and now we have five fingers. Because if you look throughout the world, there are all these different ways of math where they use base 5, base 6, base 7 in math.
Mm.
And that makes me ponder, if if we're using base 5, where would we come with the number 5? Well, look at our fingers. We have five fingers, so they would count. Like my people, we count Bajik, Nij, Niswi, Niswa, Nanan. And then after we go Nanan, that's five, or that means five phalanges. And then we say um, Bajik, Ashi, we add. So it
Oh
means
yeah, yeah.
nonen plus.
It's almost the same like in German numbering. We use that almost all over Europe. When you come to 20, you pretty much start over. There is
Right.
no
And don't
new
you
numbers
start
after
counting?
20.
Do you start counting with the pinky or do you start counting with the thumb?
Some.
Which is different than America, because Americans, they start with the pointer finger,
Yeah,
one.
I start with a thumb. One,
Yeah.
2, 3, 4. Yeah, always.
Yeah. And then when you even get into like the Hebrew alphabet, you can see how the bones of the hands correlate with the letters. And then when you go into the whole bones of including the metacarpals, the carpals, and all of the joints, you get into this historical of like rolling the bones.
Yeah,
And this was sometimes somebody would have a bag of the hand bones and they
yeah,
would dump the bag out and then they would be like, okay, that bone is the pinky bone of the second metacarpal and this means so and so.
We got point the bone. Hey,
I
Donny.
remember about those bone throwers. Yeah, I read about that.
We go by our 22 Nese. I was just trying to find, I should know it off by heart how to count in language, but I have it somewhere, but I couldn't find it. But we use our hands and toes to count to 20, and anything after that we have another word for that means many. And when we do weaving, we usually go by that too. It's 5, 10, 15 or 20 strands, depending on what you're making, right? And our number system is 10, and then you add whatever to it. But yeah, we used our hands and feet, and if we needed more numbers, that's right, if we needed more numbers, I'd get you to jump in and use your hands and your feet. But we get to a point where it's many, and it's too many to count. So there's a word for many. I wish my brother was here. He knows all the words in language. There's too many to count. Now I've got the female cat up here. Crikey.
Oh yeah, there's a number for that and a word for that.
Yeah, we have a word for that. And there's too many to count. So when we did trade in that, if it was past that number in any way, we would just remember that I owed you more next time we traded, and we were good people, and we would remember that next time we traded that I owed you more, so I'd give you something extra. And when I found this out, and that's how I do when I work and I make something for
I
someone.
still do that with my friends.
Yeah, isn't that funny? Yeah, and I was going to say, isn't it funny how it's in our DNA, right? It's embedded in us to be like that. Even though we live in a society like we do, where you wouldn't do that in society, right?
I'll give you this now, but I know that next time I owe you more,
Yeah,
so you get
right.
paid more next time.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how we used to run our traditional trade. And I'm glad. So you still have the traditional lens, Sid?
Of course, yeah.
Like,
My friends do that. Like, I pay one of my friends because he drives me around.
yep.
And
You know what I don't like, but when you're dealing with someone that isn't like that, and you get ripped off because they do it
oh yeah,
the modern way.
well, they don't
They
get
do it the modern way.
to deal with me anymore.
Yeah. What I asked Donny. Donny, do you know much on our numbers? Because Donny's and my language is a bit different. Because I have two languages, and the second language is the people that border Donny's country, and because we have no straight line borders, we speak some of his language too. That's why we had so many languages. Sorry, Donny. Go.
I can remember this guy's Mao, little guy.
That's it.
Dalaba, Yula, Yula, Yuli, Mara. Mara is 10. So,
Yep.
so if you wanted to say 14, you say Benya Yuli, which is 14.
And ours is very similar to that.
Mara is 5, but also Mara means hand.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, that's kind of the
If you
same
say
where
Mara, that's 2 hands, which is Benya.
Yeah, we don't have the B one in ours.
And the word is like many. The word many means miri, which is also means star.
Miri.
Yeah, miri, like
Yeah,
you
because
see,
there's
you look
many
up and you
stars.
see
That makes
stars,
sense.
many
Yeah,
stars. So that's miri.
yeah,
And you
makes
know,
sense.
that
for us,
sounds more like the word infinity.
Yeah.
for us, Miri also means dingo, not dog. Burma means dog, but Miri means dingo. I'm wondering if it's referring to a dog star, maybe.
Ooh, wouldn't that be cool? The dog star, two dogs, 2 is by, and dog is canna by, cannabis. 2 dog star.
Thank you, Donny. They were most the numbers that I was looking for. But I noticed a couple of numbers are a little bit different, and maybe that's the language. See how it's different? Like we speak similar language, but there's a few things.
Wiradjuri and Gamilaroi are very dissimilar, but there's a few words in there that have been changed.
Yeah. And
Well, that's like here in North America where we have for the, I think the derogatory label is called Sioux, but in their language they're called the Lakota, Dakota, Nakota, and they're called those different 3 because it's dialogue. You have northern dialogue, middle dialogue, and southern dialogue. Just like with the Anishinaabe people, we had the basic language, but like English in America, we got those down in the South that have their own nuances when it came to
Yeah,
speaking.
dialects. Yeah.
Yes. And I think that's what you were saying, Donnie, that you all had like the same language but different dialects.
Yeah, basically yes, but some are actually, but it's really unusual because the Gamilaroi land or people, they're borderlines to Anawan people, but their Anawan people language is totally different. Yet, if
Yeah,
you
we
go
have.
out west and you go Yalawai or Yalawa and Wiradjuri, they're very dissimilar to each other. But the
Yeah,
Anawan,
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to make any kind of implications that the entire Australia spoke the
yeah,
same
but if you go
language.
around Australia, there is actually words that are very dissimilar to each other. Like, let's see, the word Wangina, which is we call the white
we all
spirits.
know that word.
Yeah, yeah. But in the Milroy, it's Wanda. Very similar to Wangina, but it's not Wangina, it's Wanda.
We have the same here. In some parts of Norway, I can't even understand what they're saying if they don't like make their speech proper Norwegian. And in school here, we learn like 2 Norwegians.
Wow.
Don't make a right.
Exactly, because there's more than 2. There's hundreds of them. But there is Norwegian bokmål and there's Norwegian New Norwegian. I speak the old Norwegian, and then you also had to learn the new Norwegian.
I was
Yeah,
gonna.
here in North America, there was an estimated over 600 different languages.
Yep.
Yeah, we had heaps and heaps of them. A lot of them are dead now. I was going to say, Sid, I love your language, but coming out of my mouth sounds. Oh, I wonder if I'm saying it right. Throw me a word. Throw me and Donny a word. Actually, throw us all a word, and we'll try and say it, and tell us how good we
Well,
are.
what do you want to hear?
Actually, we won't know.
The
what
national anthem.
Yeah, pick. No, pick.
No, I don't want to sing.
Say
no.
ear.
Yeah.
Øre.
Yeah.
Øre.
How
Ear.
about
Øre.
do you have a
Øre.
protocol? Do you have a protocol of when you meet somebody? Like at the beginning of this evening's stream, I utilize the protocol of the Anishinaabe.
Oh, yeah. Well, I could do one of those.
Let's hear it.
Hei sann, mine venner, og velkommen til denne streamen. Her vi samlet med Luna, Donny, Nese og Sid, og vi blest I dag av Frøya Odin Thor I dette året 2022. Odin være med deg, min venn. There you go.
Well, can I just ring you up so you can talk for an hour? I'll pay you, Sid.
I just praised the live stream in the name of Odin, Thor, and Freya.
Yeah. I figured that. Actually, that's the thing. I understood what you were saying, even though I don't know the language. I knew you were introducing us, and I knew you made it in the Great Being's name. So, and you know what? I've travelled around Australia, and as much as I don't know much language, like Donny and others I know, I still understand what people are saying, even though I can't speak it.
Well,
Thank you for that.
like, hi is hey, yeah? Yes is ja, no is nei.
How close is that?
Yeah.
But you do understand that me and Donny actually speak Australian. We don't speak English.
Oh, yeah, I hear that. Yeah.
Well, that's when we say yes for this is in the Anishinaabe language, there usually is no differentiation between man and woman. That all of our verbs mean just somebody doing it.
Oh, yeah.
However, the only, I guess you could say, masculine or feminine distinction in the Anishinaabe language is the word yes. When a woman would say yes, she would say eya. And when a man would say yes, he would say nya.
Huh.
Yeah.
Like kind of like a nasal nya.
Yeah.
And no was gawin.
Well, that's complicated.
Gawin. And it's funny because my daughters, you know, I love the fact that my daughters were raised with not hearing no all the time.
Oh, yeah.
And they heard gawin. And I think they look at life totally differently than your average Americans that were raised on the word no.
Yeah. In our language, it's gamil.
For no?
For now, it's gamil.
Yeah, it's almost same.
Yeah, gawin.
Yeah. Very similar, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
fancy.
the word for
Maybe
yes.
we're all related.
Yeah. For the word yes, it's nah.
Oh. That's sketchy.
Nah.
Which almost sounds like nine.
Yeah.
Which
Was
means
mycket
no.
för att mittakessen, my friend.
Yeah.
Well, wouldn't it be interesting to find out that the language in the southern hemisphere is basically the reverse or opposite
Yeah. You
It's
can
than
base
North
because
America?
it's because the water runs the other way there. You know that in the sink in Australia, the water turns around the other way.
Yeah, it does, and down the Dunny here. In my version, there is no up and down, so no one's upside down. It's just we're in one place and you's in another on the other side.
Well, it's just the perspective of it,
When I was a
because
kid, we used to say I could drill through the earth and I would end up in Australia.
There's a place actually. There's a place, and I'm terrible for knowing dates and names of countries. Where I think it's somewhere in Asia. I'm not sure up that way, but a lady gets bowls of water, and tourists go there to see this. And she puts one bowl of water on one side and another bowl of water on the other side, and then she releases this plug, and the one bowl of water turns one way and the other bowl of water turns the other, and it shows you that it's got nothing to do with north and south, because in that country where she lives, they go both ways.
Yeah, I wonder what happens when you live on the middle. The water don't go down.
Depends where
if you're around the equatorial plane.
It goes straight down. Yeah.
So there's some more things they're not telling us.
Well, I mean, if people would realize literally that the globe is not accurate at all.
Oh no. Oh yeah.
At all.
Oh, yeah. It makes the countries look really fishy.
Yeah. And if you look historically, the globe, majority of the globes were, after a certain period, were made in off of Americanism, where they made North America
Bigger.
look like the largest continent on the globe, because this was part of the whole empire of America, was so egocentric.
I have an old globe upstairs from the 70s.
Does it say underneath not for educational purposes? Because that's
no.
Yeah.
I think it says for educational purposes.
Well, when I could see, I loved researching maps and trying to find the oldest known map of North America.
Yeah, I love maps.
And there's this incredible map of like 1500s, and it shows how it was one of the original maps of North America, and it showed the entirety of the boundary of the Anishinaabe people. But then as you progressed, all of a sudden they started dividing the entirety into smaller, and that's that whole divide and conquer technique that they utilize.
Yeah, sorry about that.
Well, you guys had your own problems with the empires there.
Oh, yeah. We were there first in peace, by the way.
You know what? Me and Donny, we were all tucked away. No one gave any two hoots about us, because there's nothing here that no one wanted, except for spiritual knowledge. And no one really cared. And when they came, they were real respectful, and they came and left until one day.
But historically, didn't you guys trade
Yes.
in more of a friendly manner with the Asian countries?
We traded with everyone, Nese. We traded with someone from your mob, or someone who traded from someone from your mob, because my brother used to do the job that Donny does. What's it called, Donny?
Sites work.
Sites work, right? And so this is where I grew up in Mount Druitt. they wanted to build a Bunnings, which is like a giant warehouse where you can get everything from the garden to plumbing and all that, right? I don't know what you fellas call it.
Walmart.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And when they got the site, they have to get someone like Donny or my brother. He was doing this at the time when he was younger, to go over the land and look for anything that is cultural or anything like that. Is that right, Donny?
Yes,
Oh
that's
yeah,
right.
they had to do that. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes up there and they dug a hole and he's digging around the hole, and you know the black Abyssinian, I think it's Abyssinian arrowheads that you just have over there, Nese?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Yeah, one of them popped up. Now we don't make them like that. That's not ours. We make them out of certain rocks.
Yeah,
that
do
right?
you even have that stone?
Yeah, Donny, that's men's business mostly, making
Yeah.
speed.
Isn't that volcanic rock?
Nah, what's it called? Donny will tell you what it's made of.
What's that?
The spearhead.
Abyssinian.
What? Oh, Abyssinian's made of. It's volcanic glass. We don't make spears with volcanic glass, do we, Donny?
No.
Right. So that
Yeah,
tells
that's
me
what
that.
I thought. Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, black glass, ZX. So he come up with this artifact. He said, "Look what I found." I looked at it and straight away I knew exactly what it was, because I was sent years previously one from the Native American people. I get sent presents all the time. That's why I want to come over there. Anyway, I was sent one. So I ran in and got the one that was sent to me and put it next to the one he found, and they were the same. And I said, you know what that means? This is proof that we traded with everyone and everything was peaceful, right? And no one claimed anything.
Or they got shot at.
Or
No,
it also proved that some indigenous people from North America could have possibly been on your land.
exactly.
Yes, that's it.
That's what I'm trying to say, Nese. So what happened, right? Oh, now here I am holding this proof in my hand. If I had it right now, I'd show it on screen for the whole world to see. And there's proof right in front of your face. But no, this world runs different to that. You take things like that to the university, and the people that have papers that know about these things, not the traditional people. And guess what? It magically disappeared. I didn't know they knew magic. And it magically disappeared and no one can find it.
That's like
Well,
Isn't that typical?
that's like that spearhead I found there, Luna. It was
well, this
what
is
was it
the
called? Clovis. Clovis.
right.
It's
That's exactly where I was
basically
going,
designed
Donnie.
Clovis, and it's in Australia.
Well,
And the only
so
place it's supposed to be Clovis is in your country.
but okay. So here's my argument for this Clovis arrowhead or this spearhead style. So we as humans have this incredible gift of pattern recognition. And in that pattern recognition, we try to find the simplest and most logical means for an end. So then, if all of a sudden this certain pattern of chipping or flaking to create a spearhead was extremely efficient, then as those teachings of creating these spearheads would be shared with other people that would be doing more or less the same thing as creating tools of hunting and defending. Because I refuse to proclaim that my people made tools for warring. We made tools for hunting and defending. Because I'm not a fan of the word warrior. We were defenders.
Oh, that's our job.
Right. So then if in North America they happen to be the first entities to recognize that if you flake or chip this stone a certain way, you have the most efficient means of making a spearhead. And so that knowledge would be passed to the next group of people over and the next group of people over. And they would be like, oh, geez, we do our spearheads like this, but your way is much more efficient. And so they would adapt
Of
more
course. Yeah.
likely, logically,
Yeah. Yeah.
people would adapt the more efficient and better way of doing something.
Knowledge goes around. Yeah.
Exactly. And because this is where they're proclaiming that they're finding this Clovis spearhead all around the world.
But there's also evidence that a lot of people invent the same thing at the same time in history.
Yes.
So just because one thing is somewhere doesn't mean it was invented there. Somebody else on almost the same day could have made the same thing.
Well, that's that 100th monkey theory. Have you heard that, Donnie or Luna?
No, I haven't heard that one.
I'm paraphrasing it, but there were people that were studying a certain type of monkey on this island. And they found out that on one island, monkeys were doing one thing, and then so many miles away, unattainable for these two monkeys of the same type to get back and forth from one island to the other. So when they went to the first island to study the monkeys, they would bring them mangoes or fruit. And then they started watching these monkeys would periodically wash the fruit off before they would eat it. And then they would bring the mangoes to the other island also, and these monkeys would just eat it. They went back to the first island, and all of a sudden they noticed that even more monkeys now are washing their mangoes before they eat it. They go to the second island, they're not washing their mangoes at all. They go back to the first island, all of a sudden, all of the monkeys are washing their fruit before they ate it. They go to the second island, and now all of the monkeys there are washing the fruit. And so the theory is that within these monkeys, there's this like Akashic record, collective consciousness, to where all of a sudden it was like this epiphany occurred where it's like, oh, we make this spearhead like this.
I'm glad you told that story, because this is what it tells me in that story, that there is such thing as telepathy, and you don't have to be there to know what's happening, and that they all end up doing it eventually, and that we can change the world in the same way. So if one person goes out and makes a better day and brings in beautiful love and energy and makes everything bright, and that goes to another and another, then wouldn't the whole world eventually be like that? It all rests upon us. That's what that story tells me, that if a monkey can do that, why can't we do that? Or something even
I
Because
think we do that
I
all the
have
time.
some binge watching to do.
Yeah.
You don't have any potatoes.
Well, you look at it this way. After listening to what Nese talks about the monkeys doing that, that reminds me, takes me back to what the Yowies, the Sasquatch, the Bigfoot, the Wild Man, the Almost, the Yeti, they all make the same structure. How's that so? And it's all over the world.
We don't have that.
Yeah.
It's not in Scandinavia. There's no Bigfoot stories.
No, but if you talk about the Yowie, the Longmast,
You got Yeti. It's called the
No,
They
abominable
call them
snake.
trolls.
Trolls? You got trolls?
Mountain trolls.
Yeah.
My.
They
Very
eat
nice.
gray stone, and normally they're quite nice.
Oh, I'm glad you said that, Sid,
Yeah.
because they're going to be waking up soon.
Yeah. Watch the movie Troll Hunter.
I am. I'm waiting for it to come out in Australia. We're always last because you think we're at the bottom of the world, but we're
I
actually.
think it's on YouTube. You can rent it on YouTube.
Oh, that's an old one. There's a new one coming out. Haven't you seen the new one?
No,
No,
I
the
like
new
the
one.
old one.
Oh, the old one's even better because it's technology, bro.
Yeah, Carol, a troll could be a Bigfoot. Yeah, so it could be the same story. Like trolls are Bigfoots. Yeah.
Possibly, yeah.
Yeah.
I know they're all over the world. I want to do. Actually, it's somewhere where I don't go. I'll talk about it. Actually, and me and Donny did a radio show about Yowies and Bigfoots. But we don't talk about. We summarised that Bigfoot is fluffier and hairier because of the colder climate, and the feet are different because of the terrain. Because our terrain here in Australia, our leaves are hard and crunchy, right? But pine leaves are soft when they go on the ground. We do have a couple of pine trees, but majority is gum trees, right? And other kind of plants, and they're gnarly. So we summarise that the hairy men here have probably wider, different feet to the Bigfoot in America because of the terrain.
I would think so. Yeah, there's if there's really an animal or whatever it is, there's definitely variations. Like you have bears in different countries, they look different.
Yes, that's true.
Well, just look at the polar bear compared to the Kodiak bear.
Yeah.
The polar bear's head is smaller and it's more kind of like pointy, and this would possibly be from evolution and having to come up through a
And
hole
swim. Yeah, and swim.
and yes, to be aerodynamic underwater. But then when you look at a Kodiak bear, their heads are huge and wide.
Yeah, more flat. Yeah. We also have brown bears in Norway on the mainland. They look nothing like polar bears. Polar bears are much bigger than brown bears.
We don't have bears, we just got kangaroos. Some of them are quite big and very muscly and they suit their terrain, eh, Donny?
Yeah.
What else we got? Yeah, we haven't got anything real big like that, thank goodness.
Well, you have more dangerous animals than we do.
No, we don't.
Yes, you do.
No.
As far as snakes go and
Yeah,
lizards.
snakes
Oh,
and spiders and
Spiders.
stuff. We
Yeah,
don't have
what?
any of that.
Oh, you kidding
Only
me?
dangerous animal here
I
is
think-
probably bear and wolf. Yeah.
And the humans.
Yeah, and us. Yeah.
Can you hear this, Donny? I don't
But
know
I
whether-
think
what?
it's more of a generalization that there's more poisonous animals in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, the teachers are respect.
Because you always hear about that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's because I'll tell you, and Donny, add anything onto it that I miss? So this is what we teach our kids, and I think this is much simpler than going out and watching, looking over your shoulder or having to stretch your energy out real wide to make sure nothing's coming to eat you. So you get up in the morning and you do whatever. When you put your shoes on, you turn them upside down and shake them, and you put them on. Before you put your jacket and all that on, you give them a shake before you put them on. And when you're walking around the bush, you watch where your feet go.
I don't have to worry about any of that.
All right, you just watch where your feet go because you don't want to step on anything. But you can see that there's a way of walking. You can get a good pace. You know how you got center vision and peripheral. This is why walking in the bush is really good for you. Part of it, you got center vision and peripheral vision. So you're walking up the track. You got your centre vision up the track, and then you've got your peripheral vision, which is each side of the track. If you're on a track, it's different if you're not on a track, right? So you're walking real nice and relaxed, looking forward and just having a yarn, whatever you're doing, and you are aware of what's on the side of the track, what's in the middle of the track. So if there's any snakes around, you're going to see them, okay, and you just walk along. But most of the time they get out of the way. They hear you coming and feel you coming from your vibration, they'll get out of the way. But when you put anything down, like if you take your shoes off, put your jacket down, you just shake it before you put it on. It's a really, really simple habit to do, right? And to me and Donny, it's much simpler to shake your shoes and your jacket and then head off out than it is to say a prayer and hope I don't get eaten today.
True.
Get
But I'm
where
so happy I don't have to deal with that.
Yeah, you've got to, the other thing too, Sid, when you're here, make sure, watch where you sit.
Oh,
Yeah, because
you
we
have
got
now
these
the
ants
chairs
out here.
too?
Yeah, we got these ants out here over an inch long. They call bull ants, and they bloody well hurt when they bite you on the backside.
You'll know
I don't want to go to Australia.
it's minimal. It's minimal.
I have family
Oh,
there. I should go
we
there.
got bird spiders here as well too.
Yeah, you should come.
Yeah, I don't
About
like
this-
your spiders. I hate your spiders.
They're trained.
You know, here we only have quite small spiders because it's normally colder.
Yeah.
But it's a misconception because a lot of the most venomous spiders actually live here, but they're so tiny they can't even pierce our skin. Yeah. And you never see them.
Then we got trees out here called the stinging tree too, because at certain times of the year, if you touch it, it will paralyse your arm.
But I'll tell you that right next to that tree is another little plant, and if you snap it, it gives out white milk, and you rub it on there, and it'll fix it right up.
Yeah.
Ah, beauty. Ah, nature medicine.
Yeah. And you tell
I
me.
grew up in the forest. I know my way around the forest here,
You
but I
tell me-
wouldn't have any chance in Australia.
Tell me one plant that you can go to, snap it open, get the juice, put it on you, and it'll protect you. It'll fix up the bear bite or the whatever creature just tried to eat you and took a spice out of your body. Is there a
We had
plant?
a plant we used to take. I
I'm
don't
joking.
remember the name
joking.
now.
I'm joking.
But we do have aloe vera in the house, like the plant.
Yeah, we
And
got.
like if I burn myself or something, you know, I rip off that and I put it on my wound. Yeah.
Yeah, I got it all over the place here.
My foster grandmother had aloe vera plant that was over 40 years old.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Ooh,
It
because
was
you got to wait
huge.
so many years. You got to wait so many years before it's actually at its top quality healing.
Yeah, it's
point.
potent. Yeah.
Yep. And I've got 20-year generation aloe vera grown all over my yard from the front yard to the back yard. I've got really good stuff.
Like a good strain of cannabis.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's another story. But you had me intrigued with the trolls there, Sid.
Well, that's a whole other story.
Where we have stories of giants, and
Yeah.
NASA's mob has stories of giants. I don't know, because when you say a troll, we automatically think of a
Oh,
large,
internet. Yeah.
a big, ugly, large being. All right, that looks like it was a mountain and then just woke up. That's what a troll looks like to us.
That's what they supposedly were.
Yeah.
And
But
not aliens or anything, but they were from here and they lived in the mountains and they ate stone.
Rock eaters. Like in that story, never-ending story, the rock eater is fed eating. Is that what the troll was?
They look like strong hands.
Well, obviously they're strong, and they have to have a big mouth and a strong jaw to eat stone.
Yeah, yeah, okay.
If you're
Well,
gonna
that's
crush
amazing.
stone with your jaw, you have to have a good bite.
Didn't the
And
Lord of the Rings? Didn't the Lord of the Rings came from a
I think
Norwegian
they had a
story?
troll in one of those things. Yeah,
Yeah, I'm pretty sure that the Lord of the Rings actually came from a Norwegian story.
a
In
little
the
bit
first
of it.
place.
Yeah,
Yeah, I thought it was.
yeah,
I'm really glad you told me that, Sid, because again, in culture, it has stories of beings that aren't aliens. They're just beings that were around a long time ago and were
yeah.
hunted
And they're
down.
not here anymore. We killed them.
Exactly. Thank you, Sid. They were hunted
Yeah,
down and killed. Yep. And I believe so
Or
much
they
there's
that,
were put
many
in
examples
museums.
of that. There's many animals that we have killed, and there's no more of them. There's many examples. We even have them in museums. Yeah.
yeah, I
Or
reckon,
zoos.
see, I reckon, Sid, that there is more of them. They're just not in this realm anymore. They're on the outer, beyond the, they're in the extra land, whether it be in our circle and hidden. And if you want to say there's extra land in the oceans, because they made some countries smaller to accommodate, or they're on the outer ring, whatever you believe, or they're on
Well,
another
we have
planet.
mapped most of the oceans, and there is no reset button down there.
And there's the other theory, what is it? That, Earth, they could be from there. But I truly believe, when I was a young girl, I asked about, I heard stories like the Christian version of the Noah's Ark and the unicorn didn't get to go on it.
Oh
That's
yeah,
why there's none around. That's what they, was.
yeah.
Um, we never had nothing like a unicorn culturally. We
Do you
had
know
other.
why that happened though?
Do I
A
Because
know?
rhino and a zebra got together one night
no the
and made a
horse
unicorn.
the horse the horse unplugged the unicorn's alarm to get on the ark.
Oh,
That's funny. So
so there was a
Little
time
jealousy.
limit.
oh yeah, so when I was a little girl and I asked Creator, what happened to the unicorns? Is it like they're all gone? And I saw a picture of a place where they still existed. Anyway, as a child and you grow up, you kind of put all that into the back of your head. And as an old person, you got time back on your hands and you kind of fish around and have a look. And on one of the shows on Good Day, Good Day Saturday, I showed not recently old pictures of unicorns, and they hunted them down, Sid. They were hunting them down. People think it's for their horn, but some
Oh
of the
yeah,
horns were
yeah.
taken, and some of them was they showed you blood, and it was probably for the blood. But they hunted the unicorn down like they did all the other things that weren't normal to them. And I truly believe that these things, like the trolls and like
Yeah,
the
get rid of those
all
strange
that,
animals. Yeah.
yeah, I truly believe that somewhere they exist on these extra lands, on the other planet, whatever floats your boat, or what do you say, Donny? Whatever blows your hair back. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, whatever you want to think, somewhere there they still exist, and that's where they probably come from in the beginning, maybe, or they were here and we hunted them all down. They pushed them to there. I
Yeah.
heard, yeah, I heard a story
Or
once.
they exist in another reality and one of them just stumbled in here.
Well, that was the thing about the veil, because they kind of showed me they were covered so you can't see them, right?
I
And
think more and more about that. Like
yeah,
there's
I,
several realities here.
I didn't understand when I was young what covered them meant, right? But now I do. It's a vibrational thing. So when you get to a certain vibration, it gets uncovered.
Yeah.
Um, so they still exist. All these things still exist somewhere, but they're covered.
I heard some stories, some time traveler stories.
Ooh.
And it some of it kind of makes sense. I don't not the crazy ones like, oh, I went back 10,000 years, but no, uh, the ones that I tend to think might have a little bit of thing to them is people have been going back 30, 40 years to get something from here for us in the future, 30, 40 years from now. And they can't go back further because of uh, how the world changes. So if you don't like program correctly, you would end up inside a rock,
Mm.
almost like in the movies, yeah.
I kind of understand that, but in a different way.
And so you can only go back and forwards a certain amount of time, or you get in trouble, yeah. And the time you go back to might not be the one you remember,
Funny you say that, see, because
because time can go in different directions in the different universes.
yeah.
So
All
maybe in one world everybody is owned by Germany, yeah.
I'd rather think everyone was owned by Australia, and we had that many public holidays, and the amber fluid flowed freely for
Maybe in
those.
one world Jesus is still here,
Huh?
yeah.
What does it look like, Sid?
I
Now,
don't know.
what I was going to say is that we
But I'm
have.
thinking that this is not more than 30, 40 years away until we might get this tech.
I don't know. I think we have a natural technology and we built within ourselves.
Technology has been stagnant for almost 100 years now.
We don't have stories. Oh, well, do we have stories of visitors like that, Donny? I was only thinking of the Wandjina pictures because they look like they're wearing space suits. Or they would. This is the story. No one was allowed. I've mentioned it 100 times before, and I'll keep mentioning it because it's so outstanding in our culture. No one's allowed to paint them. Only they were allowed to paint themselves. And I often wonder, did they paint themselves as the way they really looked, or did they paint themselves different because they didn't want to tell us what they really looked like? But the way they painted themselves, they kind of look like they're wearing a helmet. Is that correct, Donny?
Yeah, that's correct.
Like they got spacesuits on and they could have been from the future. That's why your stories, I'm trying to connect it up here.
Aye.
So that, yeah, you reckon they look like they're wearing spacesuits, Donny?
Yes, no. I can tell you a little bit because it's a men's business site. I can
Yeah, I'm not
tell you.
allowed to. I can't even put a picture up. Sorry,
Yeah,
not right
well,
now.
yeah. Well, not too far from me, there's a men's business site. On that site, it depicts, uh, looks to be like a crashed UFO, and these three giant red beans. That's what they've got down there. That's all I can tell you. Yeah, that's all I can tell you at the moment. Because there's a woman present. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I was gonna say. I just went wow. I didn't know I was muted. I just went wow. Even though I'm not supposed to hear that, but obviously I was. Thank you, gentlemen. Um, thank you, Creator. Thank you, ancestors, for that knowledge. Red beings, giant beings. They're not trolls, are they, Sid? Do you get red trolls?
I don't know.
See, we don't know. It's men's business, so I don't know
You
much.
know, I always thought one thing. I always, since I was a kid, I had this theory for myself. I don't normally share it a lot, but I have shared it with some KBS people before. But I think we were put here by somebody else. I think we were naughty, we were criminals and they did not want us there, and they just put us here, built some shit for us, and left us here.
I
Maybe.
see. Oh, sorry, go Donny.
I was
That's
just
what I
saying,
think.
maybe not.
Well, I kind of say yes because I know something, and I say this to people, they don't like to hear it, but it's the truth. We're not allowed out, and when they say they've been here and there, I'm kind of, anyway, we're not allowed out until we get our shit right spiritually, because our tendencies that we have do not fit the kind of living beyond this place.
I agree with you.
Right? And until we get our act together and pull ourselves up spiritually, it doesn't matter what you believe, what you've. I've got to be. I get passionate about this. Doesn't matter what religion you are, what culture you come from. That's a really good thing, because you need to get your act together and become the most beautiful being that you can think of, because we are not allowed out as one, as a race, until we get this together. So if you want to know more about what's out there and all that, and you want it to interact, and you want it under a natural way and not controlled by certain things, which Nese knows I'm talking about,
Yeah, we need to be one.
we have to get our act together, and that's the most pleasantest way I can say under the circumstances.
I agree. I agree with you. I totally agree
Do
with you.
not go past go. Do not click $200.
Yeah, go directly to jail.
And I'm really loving this yarn, because I've been thinking all week, how do I get certain knowledges out for people to understand what the right way to be is, without it becoming what it shouldn't be. And these yarns,
I think you need to just talk about it. Just say it like it is.
talk about it, yes, say it like it is.
If people get, if people think that's trouble, then that's their problem. Yeah.
Well, I
Sometimes you
find
have to treat people's
I have
trouble.
a big problem with the world nowadays. Like, you can't say anything anymore.
Anything.
Yeah.
anything.
Lucky you.
Throw things.
Yeah, so
Yeah, everything is offensive now. Can't say anything anymore.
Anything.
because I found it funny that I keep going back to giants here, but because they're in everyone's history too, and we've seen artifacts that they exist, and I'm going to do a show on that. Anyway, you said the trolls were friendly,
Yeah.
and in my research for giants in my own culture and other cultures, I found that the giants were friendly, and there were those that weren't.
Yeah,
Like,
you had to leave them alone. Like, leave
yeah,
them to their business and they leave you alone.
yeah, and I figured there were places where those ones that weren't friendly live basically by themselves somewhere, and the ones that were friendly live with us or were near us.
I would believe so. It's like us, you know? Some people are friendly and some people are not.
Yeah, yeah. And the trolls are hairy. Are they hairy? Oh, no, you said they look like rocks.
Yes. They have extreme amount of fat because they live in the mountains and it's almost snow all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because in our culture we got both. We got bad giants and good giants. Because there's stories of giants that were like Aboriginal people. They had dark skin and stuff, but they were giants and they ate people, and they'd use our hair to make dilly bags. That's the art that I do.
We have a fairy tale about the troll and three goats.
Clickety clack, clickety clack.
Yes. Who's trampling on my
Billy
bridge?
Goat's grub.
Yep.
I'm too small. Don't eat me. Wait for
Yeah,
my bigger
exactly.
brother.
Yeah, that's the one. Yeah.
And what's that
Okay,
tell
go on then.
We didn't know that. We had giant kangaroos that we had to get through, from what I know. There's stories I don't know. That's why I like talking to people. There's stories Donny knows that I don't, and vice versa. Trying to get to
Also,
some
we
of
have story about the necken.
the what?
Necken. It's called necken in English. In Norway, we say nøkken.
Nicking
It's small people,
little people.
almost always women, living in the marsh areas in the forests.
Oh,
Nimanjara.
yeah, Donny, what's that story? See, here's a story I don't.
Eh? Oh, just a place I know that where the little people live. That's called Nimban. Nimban,
Yeah.
but it's actually pronounced Nimanjara.
Isn't
We
Nimbin
live
in Australia?
Yeah, Nimban.
Yeah, isn't that like a hippie town?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I heard about that before.
Yeah. Well, that's they call that area is actually called the Little People.
And women aren't supposed to go. There's certain places there women aren't supposed to go, but in this day and culture, all the hippies go there anyway.
Also, we have the Santa Clauses. You know, Nisse. It's called Nisse in Norwegian, and it's small people, mostly men, living on farms, hiding in people's barns.
Anyway,
And every Christmas evening, every farm puts out a big pot of porridge into the barn for the Nisse.
okay.
Yeah, that's tradition.
Leaving food out, yeah, leaving food out for.
Yeah, because he's like watching your animals and stuff during nighttime. And yeah.
Yeah, we don't actually see what I noticed with our culture and other cultures, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Donny, but what I
Yeah.
noticed, most other cultures um, have a deity for this and a deity for that, right? We don't. We have one, we have the mother and the father, the creator, right? And then we have creator beings, and they're beings that are bestowed certain spiritual gifts that are used in reality. And then we have the ancestors and spirits. Is that right, Donny? Like that?
Pretty basically right, you are.
Yeah. So we don't have little g's, what I call them, for different things, and I found that really interesting. I just found it really interesting. What about your culture, Nese? How does that work in that under that lens?
We have entities that pertain either the individual entity or the collective. So we have like each tree is its own tree. But all of these trees collectively would vibrate in a spectrum of electromagnetic field, just like all owls, generalizing them all collectively, they all collectively vibrate in a spectrum of owls. Each individual owl is its own essence, spirit, soul, vibration, frequency, power, and this goes with the rocks, this goes with the plants, so we would try to live in a symbiotic relationship. So when we would go out to gather sage, for an example, we would put down tobacco to the energy, the spirit of the sage. So we're honoring it. And then we would collect plants. And it would be the same like with the bears. So it wasn't like, well, there is some kind of discussion about there was like a leader of the bears, more or less to say the liaison, where some bear would be like, all right, I'm going to go talk to the silly humans or the Anishinaabe. And then they would go and talk to the Anishinaabe. So we didn't have that, and that was the biggest challenge when it came to Christianity, where they were like saying, oh, these Native Americans are worshiping all these different gods. And it wasn't really that. We were more or less making acknowledgement to all of these other entities.
Yeah, we kind of do the same. How can I? Oh, do you want to explain how we do it, Donny?
Yeah, you go on. And I'll see if you get it right or wrong.
Thanks. We're just checking in on each other to make sure we don't go out of our boundary. So you'd go to a place. Before we got there, you would talk to the mother and the spirits of that place before you enter. You do stuff to make sure you're clean, because you don't want to go somewhere. It's like I akin it to a house, right? So I wouldn't want to go to Sid's or Nese's house dirty. I'd make sure I had a shower first, and wouldn't bring all my problems to your house. So I'd clean myself, and I'd also ask, if I wasn't invited already, if I can enter. I'm not just going to arrive and barge in without some sort of way of letting you know either I'm coming or that I'm actually there before I come.
As
Somehow.
breaking and entering.
Yeah, kind of, right? And then upon entering, I would acknowledge, because we're talking about the bush here, I'm just using the house as an example, but it's same. In reality, we'd kind of do the same. You're supposed to, not everyone does. So we'd enter the place knowing that we were visitors, right? And even when it's your own home, you want to give it the same respect. So knowing that we're visitors, so at that moment, we pay our honours and respect to the mother and father and the ancestors and all the animal, tree, rocks, water spirits, all the spirits that live there. And the same, this is who we are. We'd announce who we are, like, hello. I'd say, hello, it's Luna. Knock on your door, right? Same thing. And you go, hello, and you say who you are and why you come, because that's what you'd ask me. Hey, Nese, if I knocked on your door out of the blue, you'd be like, who's that? What do you want? So we'd say who we are and why we're there. And then you walk in, and then you'll find a response, and you pay attention to that response. And the same as you addressed going in, the ancestors, the spirits, the mother and the father, you would get a response from any one of them. So you be aware of where the response is coming from. When you get a response, then you can proceed. Is that correct, Donny? I've covered everything without going into detail, right? And that's how we do it here. And then once you've gone in or gone past that area, you can communicate with all those things. It's like it's like coming to your house. Sid and Nese, if I come to your house and you had visitors, which represent the trees and whatever lives there, even hairy men, the whole lot, the spirit people, the guardians, the whole lot, I would talk to them too, because you wouldn't tell a visitor to go away and lock themselves in the room because I came over. You'd say, hey, this is so-and-so, you know, and we'd conversate. So that also would happen. That's why it's so spiritual. And you come out with all sorts of things, like when I went to Donny's and they said, there's a present here for you. And I found that beautiful crystal rock, which I'd show you again online, but it doesn't actually like to be shown. So I found out. So, yeah. All right, I'm going to shut up now.
Oh, fascinating.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go off the bed soon too.
Yeah, it's 1:30 here. I figured it
Yeah.
out. I was actually surprised you're awake still, Donny. Otherwise, I would have invited you
I was
earlier.
just lucky you came up on my notification that you was going on.
Well,
I thought, oh, bugger, I'll stay up and have a yarn with this.
that's good to know.
It's
Oh,
been nice.
It's past someone's bedtime.
Yeah, it's past my bedtime.
4:30 here.
And plus, I've got to have my chemical tea in a minute too, before I go to bed.
Chemical tea?
Yeah, chemical tea. Yeah, my tablets.
Oh. I didn't get that.
One pill makes you bigger and one pill makes you small. And the one that mother gives you don't do anything at all. Go ask Alice.
So before you go, Donny, is there anything you'd like to round up about the book?
Pretty well. No, I haven't actually, but I've got a bit of a joke for you before we go.
Oh,
okay. What would you be thinking if a bear was chasing you? If I was running, no, I'm here and I am running with a bear behind. Didn't get that joke, did you?
No.
Oh, I got it.
That's going to take some time.
Yeah.
Did you get it, Nese?
No, I'm still perplexed.
Oh,
Yeah. Well, if a bear's chasing you, Nese, and what would you be thinking? Here I am running with a bear behind.
Ah.
That's just as stupid as how do you sink a Swedish submarine?
Yeah.
You swim down and knock.
come on, Nese. Everything comes in threes.
All right. So this boy gets up enough courage to ask this girl to the dance. And she says yes. And so he's so excited. He's like, all right, I'm going to go and get a ticket. So he goes to purchase a ticket and he gets there and there's a huge line. So he has to wait and wait and wait and wait with all these other people to get his ticket. And finally he gets his ticket. Then he's thinking, well, I should get some new pants. So he goes to the store to buy some new pants to look nice for the dance. And all of a sudden he gets to there and he goes to purchase the pants. And again, all these people, and he had to wait and wait and wait in line and wait and pay for the pants. Then he's like, well, I should probably get a new shirt to go with my new pants to go to the dance. And so he goes and finds a shirt. And again, same circumstance. A lot of people there before him. So he has to wait in queue, has to wait in line, waiting and waiting and waiting. And this is the way his day is just going. He goes and picks up his date. They go to the restaurant. And again, there's all these people. So he's waiting and waiting and waiting. They eat, they go to the dance. When they arrive at the dance, there's all of these people again waiting and waiting and waiting and waiting. They go into the dance to commemorate the dance. They go to get a picture. And of course, a bunch of people. And the waiting continues and the waiting and the waiting. And finally, they get the picture. And then the girl says to the boy, hey, will you go get me something to drink? And all of a sudden, the boy is just getting frustrated. So he's like, okay, expecting the usual. So he goes to get her something to drink, and all of a sudden he finds out there's no punchline.
Three out of 4 bears like milkshake. Yeah. With strawberry.
That's funny.
You know what we should do with all our jokes? Take them
What?
out the back and put them out of their miseries.
Oh, that's funny.
Well, I would do stand-up comedy, but every time I go to the nightclubs, they're fearful of liability. And so they say, will you at least just do sit-down comedy?
Nese!
I could say similar. I had tall expectations about becoming a comedian. But
Maybe I should make a stand-up. So, hello, I am Stian, the tall Nordic alien. I come from the Pleiades.
So what other things do you have, Sid? Like, I didn't know.
I have a lot of Norse gods and god people.
Of what? Sorry?
We have over 80 of them. We have a god for everything.
I didn't hear. Yeah, sorry, I didn't hear what you said in the first place. It's getting late here. It's getting late here, Sid. I should be in
Yeah.
sleep.
I think we save those for next time.
Yeah, we will, because we're going to do it again. We'll have a good cultural
Yeah,
show.
the stream again next Sunday. I'll be here again. We can
'Cause
talk
we
about
like-
Norse mythology.
Yep. 'Cause, I'm trying to weave it as a weaver. I'm trying to weave it all together and see what this tapestry is made of.
You know, Odin was the god of gods.
Oh, he's creator.
Yeah, he was the god of the gods. But it's kind of funny because we have a lineage for his father and his grandfather too.
Oh.
Yeah, we have their names too in our stories.
Yeah,
So
you've got,
obviously there was a god of gods before him. Yeah, would have
so it's
been
like
his dad.
family tree. You got a family tree.
Yeah,
There's
and there
always a
was
bigger G in there.
Brage was Odin's son, and he was married to Idun. And nowadays we have Idun ketchup and mustard.
Eden.
There's always a bigger G in the sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, Eden, which is the Garden of Eden, I presume.
No.
No, well, that's some other story has that name. How
Idun was married to Brage, Thor's son, and she had eternal youth.
Yeah, go on.
Yeah. That's it.
Okay. She had eternal youth. Wow.
Adrian was Odin's chef in Valhalla,
Did you say
and in
chef?
Norway, Adrian, it means girl with soot in the face. Yeah.
Did you say chef as in cook?
Yeah.
Ah, wow. So that suggests that they were actual real people. Were they giants?
I don't know. I don't know them. I think Odin and those people were big. Yeah.
Yeah,
Bigger
giant.
than us. Yeah.
Yeah, way bigger. Yeah, we're small, man.
I have a feeling about that because all the stories talk of them about being big.
Yeah, everything was bigger. Well, there was a time where everything was bigger, and I presume things were left
Well,
over.
we were shorter before.
Yeah, funny that the museum around the corner. I went there one day, had a lot of funny adventures, but this particular day, someone who worked there was there, and they were yarning up and telling me that the doorways were small because people were small like back then. The white fellas that come here, and it's true. Our people are small. Like me and Donny are small. We have small ones, tall ones, big ones. That's my cherry, sorry. And he said that they were small, and the Victorian kind of clothes that suit that day, they're all small because they fit me and I'm small. And I thought that means we got bigger. And then I learned more about the stories about giants, and then I found out they're all over the world and realised, well, how did we get smaller and then get bigger and then be smaller again? Or whatever
Yeah.
way it went, because they were bigger than us.
Well, we have proof that we have become taller and taller and taller the last hundreds of years. Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that, because as a parent,
There's proof of that.
you see the young kids today and your children's friends, and they're tall, man. They're getting, some of them, we gave them nicknames, they were that tall.
Yeah. We're adapting. Yeah.
Yeah,
We change just like any other animal. So if you look back some 100 years, obviously there's going to be some differences.
yeah. Your mob are tall. No, you're tall, Nese. Do you have short mobs in your people?
We didn't start recognizing how short we were becoming until after the colonialism. It was kind of like a given standing order for all of the earlier explorers, frontier entities to impregnate as many natives as possible to try to shorten the especially the Anishinaabe. We were known as one of the tallest
Yeah, I
natives
think
in
you were
North
quite
America.
tall. Yeah.
Wow.
We have stories in Norway about Norwegians going to America in like 11th century.
Yep.
Yeah. And they made people that were as tall as them and they called it wine country. Because
Wine.
where we landed, you had grapes and we didn't have that. You had
Wine.
wine. Yeah.
Yeah, I can't drink wine. There's something about it. I like grapes, but I can't
It's
drink.
well known here. Everybody's taught about that in school now.
Wow.
Yeah. And we would allow areas of where they could stop and
Yeah.
get supplies. And
I think we traded. Yeah.
all we said is, yeah, you're totally welcome to stop and get supplies, but do not try to create a settlement.
I think we did. And
Well,
that's
you
why
tried.
we got killed. Yeah. That's why they only find the old rock houses, yeah, on the coast.
Right.
It has been proven over and over again that there's Viking settlements in America. So, yeah.
Even in the town, have you ever heard of the word Yumkoff?
No?
We have the Yumkoff Center. And in the Yumkoff Center, we have a replica ship.
Oh, Viking ship.
Yep.
Yeah.
So if you type in Viking ship, Moorhead, Minnesota, Moorhead,
I know. I will find that right now.
and you'll come to the Yomkov Center. And they even have an old church, a Norwegian church. Beautiful church.
Homecoming Viking ship, Moorhead, Minnesota.
Yep.
I see it. I have it up here right now.
I can share the screen, you know, Sid.
I was just there in that building last Tuesday.
Just Google it, Luna.
Yeah, I know, I'm too tired.
It's the first hit.
My arms are folded and I can't be bothered unfolding them.
Yeah,
Well, we should.
I'm on my cell phone on here, so.
Oh, I get you, yeah. Yep, I get you.
Well, we should definitely gather again, but we should let Auntie Luna get some sleep.
Because it's 3 hours and 20 minutes we've been going, and it's
Oh,
been,
no kidding.
Yeah, it's been deadly as we would
Okay,
say.
we got to stop at 3 hours, 22 minutes. Hurry up, everybody, say goodbye.
All right. Everyone say goodbye. No, we won't do that. We'll round up there. So, yeah, Sid, thank you for coming.
Oh, no
we'll do it
problem,
again.
my friends.
I love your culture. I don't know why.
I love you guys too, all of you.
Join us again. We'll talk more. What do you want to say about the things we've been discussed tonight? And
I think today was a good talk, and the first hour was really interesting to listen to.
Thank you. Yeah, them fellas.
I have to say, yeah, a lot of it went over my head, but yeah.
And you're tall, eh? That's not right. I'm only small, so when I throw things, you should be able to catch them. No,
I
thank
got
you.
it now. It takes some time. It's far away.
Yeah, thanks, Sid. We're going to try and do it again same time next week. And Nese, as usual, brother, it's always a pleasure. And you got any roundup thoughts?
A little word of advice: don't make love by the garden gate. Love is blind, but the neighbors ain't. And I'm blind also. But
okay.
Oh, thank you, Luna. I appreciate you. I love you dearly, my sister. And Sid, it's always a pleasure to hear you share your perspective. You're my favorite Norwegian wood.
Yeah, Sid. Normally I'd address Sid in a different way, but I've got to behave myself.
What? Moon girl?
I'd address you like, how the beep are you going, Sid? Beep, beep, beep. No, typical Aussie, how you going, mate?
Oh, and happy full moon, everybody. Utilize it.
Oh, yeah.
Utilize it as a point of beginning a new cycle. Maybe give up sugar for this cycle, or eat healthier, or try to tell everybody you love them.
Yeah.
But be part of the change for positivity. That choice of action and words are yours ultimately. If you need any assistance in finding the positivity, please don't hesitate to reach out to Luna or me, and we will help see a new reality of positivity, or minimally neutralize the negativity.
And I was going to go out with music. Look, I'm not even ready, so I'm not going to do that.
It's your turn to do a prayer, Luna.
Yeah, it is. I want to say, as usual, love to you on this day, this evening, whatever time it is that you're listening. Creator loves you. We love you. We need more love. Stay centered, stay cool, stay calm. Enjoy the ride, and we'll see you again probably this time next week, hopefully. And thank you for listening. Yeah, Yalu. We'll see you next time. Thank you, everyone.
Giga Wobberman.
Yeah,
Toodles.
Bye bye.
Thank you, Donny, even though it's late for Donny. Poor Donny. Love ya,
Yeah, poor
yo.
Dolly.